Welcome back to the SPL for Week 7. And we've got one last set here to close out that week. And Mifflin, what a set it is, right? Sanguine up against Rival for a potential battle for that first seed overall here, Mifflin. I know that you have been pretty excited for what we could expect here from Sanguine in particular. What are you expecting here from this set?
I really want Sanguine to get back to their core values. Recently, in the last couple of weeks, we see them try and shift their playstyle towards a more early game aggression, whereas in the first 4 weeks where they really saw the majority of their success, they're playing for the late game consistently, just trying to drag it out as long as they can so they can group up and really utilize their team fight potential. I don't understand why you would see the shift just now in the midpoint of the season towards this more early game strategy when you've been largely uncontested using that last one.
Yeah, there's an odd shift from them. I mean, it makes some sense. There was some criticism about their ability to play early, so maybe that's what that is about. But these are those standings we were mentioning. Space Station, after their win a moment ago, have now improved to 7-3. And if Sanguine were to best Rival, they would drop Rival down to 7-3 as well, creating a tie for first. Also bumping Radiance up to a tie for second there with Radiance. So the standings could potentially get quite clumped here, but if Rival find that win, will have some nice clarity, Mifflin. So a lot, I think, kind of riding potentially on how this win goes. Though we just got through talking over those Space Station boys. They didn't seem too worried about it. Raffer didn't. So I wonder if Rival and Sanguine approach with that same energy, just maybe another game here the same as always.
It seems like all the pros near the top of the league aren't too concerned about their placements. They're just concerned about that goal at the end of the rainbow, that world championship coming up. You don't have to show every single play in your book. You don't have to show all your hand in this online phase. I think every single team knows that everyone has the capability to compete, so they're trying to save something in their back pocket to really throw a wrench in the machine towards that end of the season.
Well, you talked about earlier how we're looking at a new look Sanguine right now, and I wonder just how much that new look Sanguine that we're going to get from them here today, Miff, up against Rival. I don't know if that same early aggression is going to work for them because Rival have been able to answer that kind of stuff pretty well in the past with PBM's aggression. I wonder if we're going to see more of that sort of patient play style from Sanguine of trying to wait and patiently get to that late game where Panatom and Shinto can just pop off.
Rival's not going to make it easy to wait it out, though. They are the most early game-centric team in the league. 22 games played, 14 of which they get first blood in, and the majority of it is going to be from PBM. Not often that your support's going to be the progenitor of all that aggression in the early game, but if anyone can do it to slow down Sanguine's strategy, if we see them shift their playstyle back towards that earlier strategy, Rival's going to be the team to crush it.
And, you know, it's interesting, Mifflin. I feel like normally we say diversifying your win conditions is important. What is it that you don't like about the way that Sanguine play for that early game? Because I think being a team that can do both is probably just good.
It's being a team that can do both is good, but Sanguine hasn't shown me that they can do it in the early. They're looking disjointed in these early game fights. If they invade purple buff, they're usually meandering in one at a time. They're not really set up and ready for it. And it seems like if Yarkor is popping off in the mid game, they really separate themselves there and don't really get to play around each other at all. I like it when they group up as five. The five-man deathball squad that is Sanguine at their peak is so much stronger than when we're trying to see them perform on an individual level. And when you're playing in the early game, it really does come down to individual player skill.
Well, individual player that just popped off in the early game was Raffer for Space Station. I don't know if the support for Sanguine's going to have to quite try and match that same level, but certainly it wouldn't hurt. We talked to Rongyu earlier on about exactly where their team's heads were coming into this set against Rival.
So I'm here with Rongyu from Sanguine, and I'm going to start with the hard one to ask because it's been a couple weeks since you guys have been able to get a win. The losses have been very close, but I just want to know, how has the team kind of been dealing with the dynamic shift?
I think the other teams are preparing, like they know how to play against us now. So I think it's good to lose now because it's not like a good lane right now, or like we're in a final or semi-final. So I think it's good to lose now, but obviously it's not the best. So we're trying to improve for the future, you know?
Yeah. Better to get them out of the way now, adapt, and be prepared for the big events instead of, well, losing at a big event. And you know, one of the things that changes, I guess, around not only events, but throughout the online phase here that we have is that the meta shifts. And yesterday, Nika actually had said in his interview that you were a bit of a meta team in the post-game interview. So without giving much away, how has the team maybe been trying to deviate from just running the same picks every game?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can play whatever pick, but I think we're playing bad the game. So I think we just have to fix first like how to play the game, and then probably how to try new codes then.
It'll be something that's interesting to watch, I think, from Sanguine's perspective. But today, you're going to have to be playing up against PBM's kind of aggressive support play, which is a different style that the duo lane brings. So how do you plan to kind of keep up with what Rival is going to be bringing into the duo lane?
We have already played them in the SPL, and I think they're a pretty good early game team. So I think if we don't get Snowball in their game, we'll be fine.
Just slow them down, keep them from getting out of hand, and everything will go fine. Well, it sounds like you guys are prepared for this one. I'm excited to watch it. I know chat is excited to watch this one. Vamos Sanguine, as always, good luck in your games, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sounds like Wrong You and the Sanguine boys are pretty prepared to meet Myth, but just how prepared can you be for Rival when their win conditions are so varied? Twig playing well now. Panda Cat has really shown you why he's one of the best hunters out there. I think Rival's one of the hardest teams to prep for.
And a lot of that is also due, in fact, to Sanford Soccer's play in the league. I mean, this guy's getting leads all across the map, able to facilitate these star players that's just speckling this Rival roster. When you see Twig start to pop off, when you see Panda Cat start to pop off, what's usually the starting point for that? Sanford Soccer walks into your lane.
Yeah, Sam right now, man, is playing like the best jungler in the league. And I think that Rival standings currently reflect that. He's time in and time out able to find those opportunities. And as someone who did a pretty good job with the jungle once before himself, Myth, what is it that you've really been impressed with Sam? Is it the timing? Is it just mechanically? Is he the whole package? What's he done for you that you like?
I think it would have been easier for you to ask me what I don't like from Sam, because I like just about everything that Sam does. He's able to control the map incredibly well. He's got a very diverse god pool, and he shifts his playstyle to fit the comp that his team lands. If he knows that they're looking for late game, Sam's very comfortable sitting in the jungle just farming up. If he needs to put a certain lane ahead, you know he's going to have that constant aggression there. But it never seems like when he's doing these gank-centric comps that he's sacrificing too much farm. He's never falling too far behind, and he's just able to continue pushing his team further ahead. He's just diverse. He's the full package.
He is, man. It feels like more times than not, Sam is able to make those ganks work, or even if he doesn't, he doesn't end up, as you said, losing too much farm on the backside. Hard to beat a guy when he's playing like that. And maybe it's easy to gank when the lane that you're ganking has Panda Cat in it. That guy playing at another level here this year. And that's why we sat down with him to get their thoughts heading into this set up against Sanguine.
That's right. I'm here with Panda Cat from Team Rival. And I actually want to know, because this week was an interesting week for y'all, that you only had one match. And I just want to know the mentality for the SBL. When you are coming into it and you have two matches versus a week like this one where you can just prepare for Sanguine, what does Team Rival do different to prepare for that match?
We just get a lot more time to like kind of nail down what we want to do versus the team. Because when you're versing two teams, you obviously have to prepare for different play styles, different picks, different choices of like, what they prefer, prioritize. Versus when you're versing one team, you get to really nail down like what you're gonna do the week of, and what you want to practice, and like that. So it just gives us more time to really prepare.
And, preparation is probably one of the biggest things right now. Their God Pool in Season 7 is really big. Obviously, the versatility and play we've seen is very big. But hunters specifically seem to be able to kind of grab, like, Uller, Hu Yi are gravitating towards the top. Jinghui's up there as well. There's a couple that are, meta. There's also just so many options that seem viable that people are pulling out, like the Hachiman as well. So how do you and your team go about choosing the best hunter for your situation?
As you said, I think a lot of the hunters towards the top are very equal. So like for us choosing my hunter, it's pretty much just like what we want to do that game. Like, do we want pressure? Do we not want pressure? How am I going to play the lane? Am I going to be alone? Am I going to be in a 2v1? Am I going to be 1v2ing? Like a lot of things definitely influence the picks. I'm not going to go too into detail, obviously, but yeah, I think a lot of the hunters are very, very equal at the moment, which is kind of cool for the dual lane. So yeah.
And you've already proven that, honestly, given anything, you can make it work whether or not your team necessarily needs it. to maybe pop off to that level. But today, you're going to be going up against Netrioid. So outside of like banning or picking Jingwei away from Netrioid, how exactly do you prepare for that potential 1v1 or 2v2 in the duo lane?
I don't know. I think Netroid's a good player. I think he's definitely not given as much respect as he probably should be. Just yesterday we saw him like completely dominating with the hui bounces and things like that, and like having a great game. So I mean, I prepare for him just like I prepare for anybody else. Just play my own game, pick my own like gods. Use my own play style, and just hope my team does as well as they could, and I do as well as I could.
Well, awesome, man. Sounds like your team has been prepping all week for this one. And, well, you have a pretty big match ahead of you up against Sanguine. So good luck in your games. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Love Panda Cat coming into every match the same way, making sure that he's prepared. But I don't think he's too far off, making sure that he gasses up Netroid there a bit. They banned away his Jingwei, or at least took it for them in their most recent set quite a few times. And Netroid still played the Hou Yi and other picks really, really well. So it's not going to be that easy for Panda Cat, I don't think, Mifflin, to have as great a game as he normally does if they don't try and take care of Netroid early.
I just don't understand the degree of disrespect around Nitroid. He does play a lot of Jingwei, but we've seen when he's forced off, he absolutely bullied Vote with his Hou Yi. Vote takes away the Jingwei for himself, one of the safer picks in that long lane, and Nitroid souls him maybe 3 times throughout the set. This guy is multi-talented. The reason he picks Jingwei so often is because teams just allow him to take his comfort pick. Might as well take it if it's available.
That's right. I don't think it's a crutch for him at all. But we'll have our chance to find out as the picks and bans for game number 1 are ready to go, Mifflin. So we're just about ready to jump in to what a great end to this week here with this set of Rival versus Sanguine. A nice little treat to try and put a bow on Season 7. Rival will be in that first pick spot. And we've seen a lot of different valuations here depending on which teams are playing. Horus seems to come in and out of the picks and bans depending on the team. Even Yamoja can come in and out of those picks and bans. We saw Hell and Aphrodite as first picks overall, certainly demanding bans in that last set. What are you expecting here between Rival and Sanguine in terms of the gods they'll be playing?
Well, I know Rival is almost certainly constantly going to be looking for Hercules. I'd be surprised if Sanguine lets that through. And I'd imagine Rival might put their focus on towards that Raijin to make sure that Shinto can't get something that he's completely comfortable with. Shinto being the kill leader in the league with 94, I mean, you got to put some respect on that. Don't let him play something that he's absolutely beasted on. But the same can be said of Rival, the second highest kills in the league, Sam for Soccer, only 1 behind at 93. Maybe Sanguine decide to try and ban out some of his picks.
Yeah, but what do you ban? It feels like just about anything that you put into Sam for Soccer's hands could turn games around. It's such a difficult task to try and minimize his god pool. Rival will try and minimize Netroids, though. They take that Jingwei away from him, and they will force him to have a repeat performance on that Hou Yi, or whatever pick he goes with that he did up against Vote. I understand the Jingwei can be hard to gank, but I don't know, man. His next best picks have looked pretty good to me.
I don't even want to call it next best. Netroid's shown a level of consistency on multiple hunters that I think banning out Jingwei, it might even just be a red herring. He might just be sitting at his desk right now giggling, haha, these losers had to ban out my Jingwei. Do they not see what I do? He does. He does absolutely love it. And it fits their play style if they do decide to shift back towards that more casual, laid-back early game where they just try and farm out. Jingwei is going to be largely uncontestable if she doesn't want to fight.
Well, you mentioned maybe banning that Raijin away from Shinto, but it's Sanguine that banned it. They didn't want that to be grabbed by Rival, but they need not worry. Rival, we're happy to pick up this Yamoja for PBM, and I think he's one of the players that has made this Yamoja look the most consistently strong for my money. I mean, we've even seen Aurora struggle on it at times, but PBM picks this and seems to do well with it almost every time. I love it in his hands, but we highlighted that Hou Yi as the fallback for Netroid. He goes right to it when the Jingwei is taken away.
But leaving that Uller on the table, not only is it a fantastic flex pick, but if it does go into the long lane with this Yamoja, if Yamoja lands the stun, Hou Yi can just use his entire bow-sided kit there, or he can follow up with his own stun. There's so much ranged engagement from Rival's side. As long as they just play aggressive, they should be able to bully just about any lane that comes their way, and they just have a ton of sustain there as well.
Well, now they're going to add in the Oloran, too. I mean, that gives them a ton of team fighting control with these two big rectangle ultimates between the Sanctified Field and that River's Rebuke. But I feel like this is a bit early for this Oloran. I mean, you can certainly still pick these big CC immune ultimates, like the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, like Vamana comes to mind, too, in the jungle. Those are some of the best gods at dealing with that Oloran, and now Sanguine know they can try and prioritize on the back half of their draft. Rival have a lot of work cut out for them with these next two bans.
And this Jing Shen pick can almost certainly be attributed to that Oloran pickup by Rival. Now, two gods on the enemy team have to contend with that anti-auto attack from Jing Chen's passive on the one. It's going to deal a little bit less damage. You're going to have a much harder time finding that consistent source of single target on the side of Rival. But I like what they have so far. You have this high priority target in your mid lane from this Oloran, and then you have Ullr and Yamoja who should almost certainly be able to control that lane for free. If you pick another high pressure lane in your solo and have something in the jungle that can make sure that this Oloran doesn't fall behind in the early, that's a fantastic fallback into your late game.
It is also worth noting, I don't think either of these teams led with a particularly high flex pick here. It should be fairly clear where all these gods are going at this point. A lot of the times it's important in these picks and bans, but they are saving their jungle and solos for late, and I think that's a big deal. Sanguine should be able to pick something either over in the solo lane or in the jungle to react to the entirety of this draft, so they're going to have to make sure they get a good amount of value, I'm thinking, out of those last two picks too.
Well, it's not Vamana, but it's going to do largely the same against this Oloran. He drops the Sanctified Field, then the Naja ultimate's going to be able to come through and remove him from the playfield, make sure that he can't utilize that Sanctified Field nearly as much as he would want to. Or if you find it beforehand, you can instantly blow him up on the landing. I like Naja insofar as what he's going to be able to do against this high-priority mage. It's just whether or not he's going to be able to find that pressure in the early game with this Merlin. The follow-up is there slightly, but even then, you're looking for huge burst potential on the back end of a Naja ultimate, and right now, Sanguine doesn't have it.
Merlin's not too bad, and I suppose it's maybe not the all-at-once damage, though, as you mentioned, the burst. That's there, but should be plenty. Surprised at all that it's the Awelish and the Thanatos that were banned with Unbot still out there? I mean, I am a bit, but maybe Sanguine had that right read. Doesn't look like that's what Rival wanted here. They pick up the Habwa instead. Looks like that's what they'll be taking here into the jungle for Sam for Soccer to pilot as Sanguine round out their draft with that Jormungand.
Rival just picked themselves up in one character another late game win condition. If Hebo makes it into the late unscathed, well, yeah, every ability is an ultimate except for his two. If Oloran makes it into the late, he's going to be a team fight behemoth with huge auto attack damage. Structures aren't going to stand a chance for Sanguine if Rival's able to get in there uncontested. But the pressure that Sanguine drafted towards that early game, the ability to focus out at least one target in each team fight, might be just enough to slow down Rival and make sure that Sanguine come out with a dub.
Should still be in a good spot, and they've got some dive potential with that Jormungandr too to cause problems for that Oloran. It's a big match here. First place is on the line for game number 1.
Always appreciated Finch and Mifflin. It is Dawson and Gormizer on the call for Rival and Sanguine to round out Week 7 here in the SPL. Now, Gore, both of these teams coming into this matchup with a bit of a different streak on their side. Rival won 2 out of the last 3 out of the last 4 overall. Or Sanguine haven't won any out of their last 3 games. Worth noting, both teams coming into this game where all 3 of their previous 3 games went to 3 games. So 3 seems to be the big number here. Can Sanguine break the loss streak is the larger question at hand.
And they have a draft that can help control it, but much like they were saying on the desk, and this is specifically not only late game, but if they get a Fire Giant on Rival, say goodbye if you're a structure. I mean, there's so much control that can come at a 25-minute, 30-minute swing with a Fire Giant from Rival, and yeah, a lot of teams are going to be able to do that, but you can't underestimate how much this Ullr, how much this Oloran are going to bring, the damage that a Habwa can do that late. So you need to slow them down, and Sanguine, with that Naja, have exactly what they need to maybe find some of these early picks and slow Rival down a lot.
And speaking of early, PBM is obviously the guy that jumps to mind. Obviously, ridiculously high first blood, even first blood assist percentage gets a little bit higher. Yamoja, you can already see his mindset here. I don't know if you call it a full-on invade, if he just kind of walks right up to it, but forces Wrong You to drop that hog, secure off the purple buff, but now it's Wrong You that has that one picked up. Now, on the other side, there's a little bit of pressure being exerted over onto Sam. Anatom has invaded the backside of the rival jungle. Yarkor is here to play as well, and the final shot will be there. Yarkor with the tick on the spit will strike for first blood. A brilliant start here for Sanguine.
Now you see, if Sam has that same ability rotation in 20 minutes, then Panatom is melted and eliminated out of there. He doesn't exist anymore. But because it's this early on, I love to see that abuse on the Hebo. Slow it down. Stop him from leveling up. Hebo is a glass cannon. He's very easy to kill, but you have to do it before he can eliminate you. And if you can slow him down early, get that level lead like Panatom already has, then you can shift that control. Stop focusing Sam and then look at Twig, and then you can start making rotations to the duo.
Yeah, you need to do this before, the end game is, I think, the big takeaway there. And it extends beyond Sanford Soccer over to the mid lane as well. Obviously, kill pressure in the long lane, as you see there from Netrioid. But is this a sort of game, and maybe it's a cliche at this point, where it feels like Sanguine are just kind of fighting against the clock? They need to win this one in the early to avoid a late-game Hebo, to avoid a late-game Olarun.
Normally I would say that, and honestly, it does still feel that way. There's a lot that they're playing against, and the clock is going to be one of them. But Sanguine have been one of the cleanest 5v5 teams that we've gotten to see so far this year, that I'm not too stressed out for them. It's just more difficult, right, in the late game, because there's so much that comes around you. I mean, I don't know if you like big boxes. I like big boxes. Rival like big boxes. A River's Rebuke with a Sanctified Fields, either together or separately, it just controls so much zone in the middle of a team fight that it's just going to be very difficult. You have to approach the fight with a different mindset if you're Sanguine.
Yeah, it's a certainly strong team fight that Rival have. PBM once more rotating through, though, trying to steal away a buff. This time, unlike the purple, he was successful. So you can already see the mindset that PBM has. He's already rotated out of this long lane. Rongyu has done the same. But the pressure in the Sanguine jungle by the Rival support is palpable already. 3.5 minutes into this game, though Sam is the victim of first blood, they're pulling a little back. Rival are taking away some of the pressure that Panatom has in the jungle.
Oh, the difficult part is going to be when that pressure turns to Twig's attention specifically. Shinto is going to be able to get in, get out of a lot of the aggression that could come from the jungle onto him. Pandacat, likewise, but if Panatom plays his cooldowns correctly, it could be a kill.
Will the Sash connect? It will. Panda stunned down. Cooldowns are waiting here. That's a stun back onto the Naja, so Pandacat will live this time. Rongyu just a little bit late to the party, but PBM has joined as well. So no kill, and Pandacat holds on to his beads, but lane pressure now pushing back up against Rival.
Panatom gets his ult. If he has that, 10 seconds earlier, then maybe that is a kill there on the Pandacat. But remember that thing we were saying about Uller being pretty safe in lane? All that return damage, the self-peel, the ability to jump out, even after getting Sash, didn't have to burn his beads to stay safe. That's just what he brings.
Invade number 2 on purple buff, and it looks like Rival were able to secure it. Will Sanford Soccer get out alive this time? They were. So Rival do end up taking away that purple buff, so 1 out of 2 already for Sanguine. But Gore, I think you can start to see the mindset that Rival have. Take away as much from Sanguine as we can, and despite being even here, a 200 gold lead for Sanguine, it feels like the map pressure maybe has been for Rival up to this point, and Fino K has taken away a blue buff in the meantime.
Yeah, realistically, the gold is maybe just some leftover remnants from that first blood bounty, and that's about it in favor of Sanguine right now. That kill hasn't really amounted into much, and Panatom hasn't been able to get as aggressive as he would like in some of these other lanes. Even chasing down Pandacat using the full kit, he didn't get a kill out of it, and so you have to wonder, where's my gank opportunity? Where's my gank potential? Well, mid still has beads. You didn't burn Pandacat's beads, so no matter where you go, those relics are going to be able to keep them safe, which is going to slow Panatom down and maybe keep this jungle from bouncing as far forward as Sanguine needed to.
Well, slowing Panatom down will be key here. Just now, Sanford Soccer matching that level 6, so a slight XP lead for Panatom in the jungle. Sam has been such a fun player, I think, to follow here in the SPL. Coming into this game, Sam played 6 different gods in the last 6 games. Now adding Hebo to the list will be his 7th different god in the last 7 games. I mean, this is a high-level, even pick-ban conversation. But what Sam has brought to this team in the flexibility, you even see drawing 2 bans out there from Sanguine at the end. This is a hard guy to lock down, not only in-game, but in picks and bans.
And that's one of my favorite things. I got to watch Sam when he was still doing, challenger level play, when he wasn't brought into the Pro League. And it's just been watching him through this growth to the point where, like you said, being able to play 7 different gods in the Pro League, the versatility that he's bringing is immense. Forcing 2 bans out of Sanguine has been big. And yeah, he's first blooded in this game. It's a really good play from Panatom, but so far it hasn't been enough to slow him down, and he hasn't been loud just yet, but Hebo isn't setting up for early game kills.
Oh my, look at that CC follow-up there. Axe immediately into the PBM stun. Sam for Soccer is here. River's Rebuke won't lock out Netrioid, but Sam is here to play. He'll get the knock-up on a Netrioid, and that's a return kill. Crushing Wave defensively. Wrong you, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. But Captain Twig has rotated through, and that's a sanctified field that'll lock down the Sanguine support. A 2-kill swing for Rival.
And honestly, you can maybe list every ultimate that Rival used there to make sure that happens in their favor, but it doesn't really matter. At the way and the pace that the game has been going, drop all 3 of those ultimates. It keeps Sam alive, they get the damage needed, and they force Wrongyu into an awkward position. The minute he used that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel and that CC immunity is gone, Captain Twig knows, man, this is a nice wide opening for a Sanctified Field. You're probably not walking out of this one, but you're definitely not walking out of it if I use my ult. So I love the lockdown. It gives them a lot more control on this left-hand side of the map, and you pointed out the red buff, purple buff, where Rival have been putting on that pressure. Now they are opening the conversation of Gold Fury control when that comes around, and yeah, maybe 8 minutes isn't the time, but at 15 or maybe 12 if they can really rush it, they're going to have a solid grip on the left-hand jungle.
And Gore, there's a level lead in almost every role at this point for Rival. Yarkor just now catching up to Fine-OK, who was 9-8 a moment ago. Same in the jungle. Sam 8-7. Still a lead for Captain Twig. Wrongyu was 2 levels down on PBM just a few moments ago, and you can already see these gaps starting to widen. Panda Cat pulling 1 level ahead of his counterpart. This is kind of the Rival that maybe we're used to seeing, maybe specifically even with the long lane pressure. Remember, the early season Rival was all about sending Sam over to the long lane, snowballing some kills over on that side. They've set themselves up very well here. It's only a 500 gold lead or so. The XP certainly on their side could shrink a little bit, though, as Captain Twig is caught down, and that's Windfire Wheels over onto the mid laner for Rival, but in goes Wrongyu. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel will toss Sam for Soccer back. Crushing Wave nearly finds the execute, but Panda Cat will find the final kill anyway. Sam's still alive. Now he's on the chase, forces the flicker away from Shito. Panatom, the rings do so much damage, but only find 1 before Netrioid leaps over the wall. It's going to be hard to take stock of this one, but Sanguine have found 3. Rival with 2. The chase for Netrioid could be on.
Panda and Netrioid both have about the same amount of mana. That mark gives the reveal, though, which is going to set things up for Netrioid. A really good bounce there. If he had been maybe a step further forward, might have been able to find a clean stun onto Panda Cat and chase it down. But I think the biggest part of that fight that stood out to me was the trade places. Panda Cat and Netrioid jump the wall at the same time.
Yep.
If one of them stays on the other side, there's more than likely either a save or a kill that each team racks back up. I mean, that was just well played. I was going to go into a whole spiel about how beads hadn't been burned yet, but Rival used every single one of theirs in that engagement. So look at Panatom to maybe make some interesting plays in the next couple of minutes, or, well, minute and a half, now that there's about 90-second timers on everybody for Rival there.
Well, speaking of being burnt, it's the World Serpent for Yarkor just to get him out of dodge, and won't have the teleport for another minute, so we'll have to slither his way back to lane. Instead, we'll cancel the back. And you bring up Panatom and how close some of the playmakers have been for both of these teams. Shinto, obviously, most kills in the league. Sam tied with Panatom. And so, seeing Panatom affecting 100% of the kills here, not surprising. How many will he contribute, though, to Rival is the next question. Fine-OK will rotate over, drop down the shot, and Panatom will take a back seat. So Rival, a clean, call it a 4-man rotation over to mid, pulls one back for Rival.
And you want to talk about something only Rival do? It's a rotation like that from Fine-OK. I mean, what other solo laner is in mid waiting to pick up that kill other than Fine-OK? And it's something that they are okay and willing to commit to early on, is these solo rotations. You maybe give up a little bit of farm, but you help the team as a whole. And admittedly, getting that kill maybe helps him out even more, because he already had a little bit of a lead. You highlighted that earlier. Now he has that kill on top of it, is able to get the farm. Sam is lurking over there in the jungle, potentially looking for a little bit more onto Yarkor.
Sam just hovering over by this blue buff. Maybe not too surprising after what we've seen from Rival here in this early game. Blue buffs, red, purple, none have been given over for free. That does open the door, though, to a little bit of this, where PBM may be caught out. Crushing Wave already used by Sam for soccer. That's a sanctified field from Captain Twig, but Panatom caught in the center of it all and deleted is the Sanguine jungler. Final K is over on the chase, and that's signature Rival. It looks like they're caught out, they turn around to fight and get a pick.
I mean, Sam even misses his ult, right? And the only way you could forget that is the fact that, well, hey, there's Sanctified Fields. This slow-mo Hebo damage looks really cool. And that's, you know, the flashy part of it. He gets a good kill. They all walk out alive. They, you know, clean their hands of any good engagement Sanguine had there. And that's where these ults are going to come into it. And again, no beads burned on Sanguine. Maybe you throw some of those out there and it helps them control the pace of that and at least not trade out any kills. But as of now, I think Rival, I mean, they're the ones that are, you know, the expert fishermen right now. They're throwing out the bait, Sanguine are biting, and they're reeling it in perfectly so far.
Yeah, it's kind of been the back-and-forth battle of the junglers, where Sam for Soccer has affected all 6 of the kills for Rival, and Panatom, as mentioned previously, has affected all 4 of the kills here for Sanguine. Both have died 2 or 3 times. And so the rotations will need to continue here, I think, for both to kind of keep pace with one another. Interesting always to follow kind of different builds in the jungle. Sam for Soccer has opted for the Doom Orb first overall here. So 145 magical power spike in the jungle for Sam right off the bat.
Yeah, if you were wondering anything else, movement speed, that's actually going to be really nice as a jungler, help him get from lane to lane. The mana is Hebo, throw out more abilities. But let's be real, that power is the stat that is flexing the hardest on it. It's very similar to the Bancroft's Talon there in mid. You get a little bit of lifesteal for Twig. It's the 1-2 punch between the Olarun and this Hebo that it's just going to melt people, much like we actually just got to see in the jungle. Those items are huge power spikes, and it's made Sam a big threat.
Final K learns that Shinto hurts plenty despite just 1 assist on the Sanguine mid laner. Captain Twig now, the ire of Sanguine's eye. Sanctified Field not ready. That's the pull back in by Shinto from over the wall. 4 members of Sanguine on the chase. Nitrioid still in the long lane with Panda Cat, so no rotation from the Hunters just yet. So lucky to get out alive, but it's a continued theme here from Team Rival. Captain Twig has to drop down the beads as Rongyu whirlwinds of rage and steals in the mid lane, and nobody dies yet.
And I love this because now we actually have an interesting pickup coming down from mid. Twig has that Relic Dagger and the Shell to keep him alive in fights like that.
Sam gets immediately caught down there by Sanguine. 3 members still lurking around the corner. Now this is maybe a fight that Sanguine gonna look to push. Netrioid seems to agree. Will jump over. Sanctified Field slows down the stun, but not enough for Captain Twig to dodge it out. He'll stay alive thanks to a little bit of shielding and healing from PBM, who throws up the River's Rebuke. Shinto staggered out just a little bit, but has found the kill on the Rival mid laner. Panda Cat has rotated through, and both Hunters will notch a kill in the kill column, but it's Sanguine yet again who find themselves a couple kills ahead in this engagement.
Rival just seemed unsure whether or not they wanted to fully disengage. Panda Cat, fine, okay, rotated over, but it was just a hair too late to actually be helpful in the fight. And, well, you pick up a good kill on the backline, but fine, okay, might honestly be giving off more than he's actually picking up for the team with how low his health has gotten.
Whoa, Panda Cat has found the final shot onto Netrioid from completely elsewhere on the map, so Final K helping to open up a kill there. And Panda Cat, maybe the largest beneficiary of that rotation over. 3-0-4 now, a couple of kills added to his kill column, fully stacked Transcendence. It's the early game, the early to mid, obviously still powerful in the late as any Hunter, but this Uller is immediately starting to connect here for Rival.
And Olarun, he's going to get items. He's going to be able to hit hard, no problem. And you could say the same thing about an Uller, but if you get Uller ahead, right now only 1 level, but still pretty chunky, also now being able to go into his next item a little bit earlier, this opens up a lot of conversations for Rival.
Rival start and finish the Gold Fury in the meantime. Rongyu was close by, but won't be there to steal it away. So that is the now probably largest gold swing we've seen in this game. 3 and some change. Or 2 maybe and some change for Rival here up to this point. We'll call it an even 3. And I think if you're Rival with the way this game has been going, obviously you're never going to be unhappy with a gold lead, but with a composition that's maybe leaning on the late game a little bit heavier, pulling yourself 3,000 ahead 16 minutes in, it's got to be a gift here for Rival.
Yeah, I mean, having the gold lead, even though the kills have been a little wonky, even some of the engagements have been a little shaky for Rival. I think the way they play it is appropriate, where, again, Sam, as he gets items, is still going to beat Hebo with a lot of damage. He's still going to be able to hit you with 2 abilities and just absolutely decimate your health bar. It's playing around Panda Cat right now, and he's looking comfortable. He traded tower for the Pyro, but you have your old Uller, as you highlighted, at 3-0 and 4. He's making clean rotations. He's a big part of these fights.
It's another blink forward, another Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and another beads out from Captain Twig. That means he won't be able to avoid the stun from Panatom, who's rotated through. Flicker away as Sanford Soccer engages on the backline, but a Sanctified Field will lock Panatom in, and Panda Cat will thank him for the 4th time this game. Sanguine underneath the Tier 1 tower here, but the disengage maybe ever important here is Rival. They have the momentum, and they might grab a Tier 1 tower.
Yeah, remember that thing we said about structures, I guess 17 minutes ago? Now you get to see it come to fruition. You get Panda Cat and Twig in the same lane. You don't really need the Fire Giant buff to melt these towers, even Phoenixes, the way that we have seen other teams, kind of drastically need it. Sometimes you get under a Phoenix and, man, you could be standing there for a full minute and it still feels like it only goes down about halfway unless you have that Fire Giant buff. That's not the way Rival are going to be feeling. So pushing objectives like that, there's so much conversation for them to be able to sneak Gold Furies and push down Tier 1 towers and Tier 2 towers if they get a little bit tasty kills off the initial fight.
And we've talked so much about, who's been grabbing these picks and how Panda Cat has been, the large beneficiary here in this early game for Team Rival, 4-0-4 on the Uller. He has a 2-level lead over Netrioid, the Tier 1 tower already gone in that long lane against Sanguine. I mean, maybe it goes without saying because it's an Uller. I mean, there's obviously 1v1 potential despite maybe your support leaving and the jungle not rotating over there and getting through. But this is maybe the furthest behind we've seen Netrioid in a little while, so the adaptation from Sanguine's going to be important.
And this is where Rival can maybe take advantage of something that Sanguine have. Like, Sanguine are great at team fighting, but even team fighting, if the entire team is behind, doesn't feel as good. It doesn't matter if you can isolate that pick if you can't kill him better than he can kill you. And so, utilize this lead that Panda Cat has. A 4-0-4 score not found for him. He's able to get aggressive, and he has been the rotation maker. I mean, the ults from Twig and Mike are the setup. Sam is the distraction. Panda Cat is the star that gets to come out looking great because of it, right? He is the one that is kind of being lifted by the rest of his team, but admittedly, right now, he deserves it.
Well, Rival continue to push their advantage. It seems like a lot of Sanguine's opening fights have been Rival deep in the Sanguine jungle, trying to pick away some of the buffs, some of the jungle, and otherwise in the mid lane, it's been Wrong You blinking forward, looking for a Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, but it's been on a relatively high enough cooldown, I suppose, the engages that Captain Twig has been able to beat it out and have the beads open for the next time. So you wonder if maybe moving into later stages of the game, Sanguine, despite being at a differential, maybe that's the key if here, the devil's advocate in this conversation, need to start looking for different ways to engage onto Rival.
Yeah, that's the challenge, though, right? Where do you go and how do you break them apart? Rival, I mean, even right now, they're separated, but so close to each other that if you jump on the fight, okay, there's going to be 3 guys in the fight next to you within a few seconds. So finding that initial pick is maybe more difficult than necessary. With Sam getting aggressive over here, maybe that's the sign to fight in mid.
Netrioid never stood a chance there. That's a full, clean rotation from Sam. 20 minutes in, 3 completed items, counting the boots, so really 2 from Sam. Massive differential there. And that's got to be frightening. Already to be at this point where, granted it's a squishy hunter, but if Sanford Soccer finds an opening, Netrioid just won't be allowed to play the game.
I mean, Sam has what he needs, right? We talked about how strong Doom Orb is, but you get 100+ power off of the spear there as well.
Yep.
And you get some pin on top of that. It's just going to allow him to shred through health bars a little bit easier. And, well, last I checked, Huyi wasn't necessarily known for being the super tankiest.
No, he's not tanky.
So it's pretty easy to maybe abuse that solo, or that, well, I guess solo carry over there in the long lane and create a zone like this. I mean, Sanguine are too scared to even get close.
Well, it's an open Phoenix now in the long lane for Sanguine, so bad to worse as this game has rolled through. Gold lead now extends to about 5,000, almost spot on here for Team Rival. Sanguine, you know, it's been the similar vein early on where they've kind of played reactively deep in the jungle, and as I mentioned, maybe you looking for the fights. You don't think you're going to be asking this question 20 minutes into the game, Gore, but is this just hope that somebody is caught out of position for Rival with the way this lead looks right now?
I don't think hope. I think they still have the ability to try and manipulate Rival, but the problem is that they keep falling for the same traps Rival set and not getting an opportunity to set their own.
Wow.
Maybe a fight right here around the Fire Giant could change things.
Sanctified Field and River's Rebuke both use. Rival will secure the FG. Wrongyu, unable to do so, will burn both of the jumps, and a cat will leap right back in. Final K chopping away as well. Wrongyu's a foregone conclusion here, and Sam for Soccer is the beneficiary. Netrioid, realizing maybe he's not the greatest asset to rotate over just yet, is more useful elsewhere on the map. Pulls a tier 1 tower in the long lane, going to continue pushing down this tier 2 tower. Should be able to get it despite Final K being somewhat close by. But now you've got Oni minions and 3 players with Fire Giant buff pushing down the short lane.
And if you were wondering what the benefits of having 2 auto attackers on your team are, it's this. Hey, we can group up as Rival, take a tier 2. Granted, Netrioid does trade it out. The split push is strong, but they get Pyromancer on the side of Rival as well, and that was just Twig. They haven't been a full 5-man group so far since that fight around the Fire Giant, and that's a little scary for Sanguine. They showed off that they can isolate Wrongyu and burn him down. No beads, no Aegis used for any of the carries on Sanguine, but they're never in any danger. The minute Wrongyu gets caught out, they fell behind. Yarkor wasn't able to really do anything and come in and supplement it, and I still believe in them being able to find their picks and open up the door. There's still an avenue to maybe collapse in on Sam and Twig, but the window is closing on top of them as they're trying to find it. And unless they start picking it up now, they really are starting to hope for Rival to slip up more than they can set up their own fight.
Well, it's Shinto that maybe is the route back in here. 2-1-2 on the Merlin. And top player damage in the game as well. Has added the Obsidian Shard, Divine Ruin, some Pen, Soul Reaver. So despite the way this game has looked for Sanguine up to this point, Shinto, the kill leader here in the SPL, absolutely always a perpetual avenue for Sanguine to get back into these games.
And the ability to shred down targets. And normally we talk about Merlin around objectives, but hey, guess what's a moving objective? It's fine, okay. It's Polar Bear Mike. These 2 tanky targets on Rival. You're still going to be able to shred through them if you're Shinto. You're going to be able to set up those kills for your team. You just need a little support. Maybe Netrioid getting that tier 2 helps you stay, I guess, somewhat even in terms of gold from where you were prior to the Fire Giant. But him being in the fight will make the big swing. The setup now for Sanguine is to get that carry online, let Shinto and Netrioid do the damage that we've seen out of Twig and Panda Cat, and they'll be back in this conversation in no time.
It has been 24 minutes and worth taking stock now since, the small lead has exploded for Rival. 10k gold in the lead at 24 minutes into this game. 3 open Phoenixes. I suppose if you're Sanguine, there are no more towers for Rival to grab. I mean, a huge explosion, of course, coming on the back of that Fire Giant and all of the tier 2 towers being locked down. The right side Phoenix now for Rival, or Sanguine maybe, is the target for Rival. 3 members over on the left-hand side, 2 members over on the right, and Sanguine will match that aggression. Polar Bear Mike moves in. Captain Twig, he's fallen elsewhere on the map, so maybe a little overextended our Rival. And these are the avenues back into games like this. Maybe overstay, maybe overextend. And Captain Twig takes a seat for 45 seconds.
You lose your beads if you're PBM and Panda Cat. You lose your mid if you're Rival, which is probably the bigger talking point. But 2 ults burned from Wrongyu and Netrioid. And, well, hey, your Fire Giant buff doesn't last that much longer anyway. So the Phoenix Siege, as of right now, is dead in the water unless Rival somehow miraculously just turn all of their ults global and kill everyone on Sanguine, which, as far as I know, isn't going to happen unless they want... that's a different conversation to go down. Either way, right now your goal is wait out these timers, figure out a good
theory
pick,
craft,
and try to open up the door maybe around this Primal Fury that's spawning up in 10 seconds. They should have solid control over that. Sanguine, you're waiting a minute. You don't really want to fight around this Primal Fury because losing that means a guaranteed loss on the Fire Giant. You are looking to the right-hand side of the map if you're me, and it is defend that FG, do whatever you can to maybe find a pick. You could maybe poke your head in over around this Primal Fury, but I don't know if you want to full commit.
And you can see what happened there in that replay, and it's Captain Twig unable to drop the Sanctified Field in time. Shinto pulls one back in, and That's the Merlin we bring up. He's been hitting hard in this game so far, 2,000 damage higher than anyone else in the game, and will continue to do so. Sanguine, as such, despite a large 9,000 gold differential, are going to hang around, contest this Primal Fury, and its rival who will start it up. FineOK in range of all 5 members of Sanguine here, stunned down onto Yarkor. That'll be compounded by PBM. World Serpent will slither on through here, but the final couple of charges will be used as a disengage. First big only ultimate use so far, and it's disengage from Yarkor.
And it's mainly because if he doesn't ult there, he's going to die. I mean, they got through half his health bar in no time as rival. And that's why I was really timid about being aggressive on the Primal Fury. Luckily, they only have to use the World Serpent to stay alive, and they do keep all 5 members alive because the Fire Giant's up. If you lose that fight too drastically, this is free for rival.
Rival move in, but Rongyu is there as well. Sanctified Field and River's Rebuke both used, but they will both likely fall down. Sanguine in range, but unable to take it away. Rival have used ultimates to secure the FG, and as such won't search much further for a fight. So 5 full members for Rival with the buff, a Pyromancer, the only silver lining for Sanguine.
Rongyu's got spunk, I'll give him that. I love what he does there.
That's Moxie.
He just does it about, 5 seconds too early, realistically? If he comes in with some backup from his team, or when the Fire Giant's a little lower, then we're in the realm of, oh, this could be a steal, this could be the turnaround, this could be the breaking point where Sanguine take it back. But he goes in just a little too early, and yeah, it's a great ult, flashy play, but there's nothing to follow it up. There's nothing that Sanguine can really get out of it, and while he walks away alive, I don't know if it's worth the investment. Again, you hang out just a little bit longer, maybe Rival don't have that Fire Giant belt around all 5 members, but now they can group up. Left-hand Phoenix seems like their priority, but I mean, you can see in mid, they're up around the tier 1, in right, they're about to be up around the tier 1. They're strong.
PBM is locked down here. Nitroid will find the opening kill. A River's Rebuke will separate the fight, but it was a last-ditch effort there from PBM just to delay Sanguine from this. The ongoing team fight, looks like Rival will be able to disengage, but PBM just a touch too far forward, and Sanguine pull one back.
I like where Twig is at, and it's pushing forward mid, making sure the minion waves are still aggressive, and staying safe himself in the process. But if you want to stop something dead in the water, it's, well, I guess kill the water in Yamoja. Get rid of her, and there's no place for Rival to get as aggressive. PBM is such a huge setup for them. And yeah, Sanctified Fields, great setup. Sam for Soccer's engagement, great setup to open up a fight. But you don't want to go in without your tank, especially the healing that is going to come down from that Yamoja. So in 10 seconds, I expect to see Rival jump right back into the fight. But until that Yamoja's back, this is Sanguine's game to win.
Sanguine going to move forward for the moment as FineOK is stunned down, and that's Painatom who will lift him up to the sky. Windfire Wheels doing their job. Sanctified Field unable to disengage, but Sam for Soccer has found the kill over onto Rongyu in the front line. It's a 1-for-1 trade despite a numbers advantage for Sanguine, and it's Rival who are now maybe feeling a little bit more confident. 3 members left alive with the Fire Giant buff. 1-for-1 trade in the jungle.
Numbers advantage on one side, but damage advantage, I would say, there for Rival. While Shinto's up at the top, you see the next 3 right next to each other are all Rival. And it's just so difficult to try and burn through all of those members while taking that damage in return. Now they're going to put some pressure on this right-hand Phoenix. I don't know if Sanguine can defend it.
Shinto is pulled back in 3 and is decimating the front line of Rival here. Yarkor will World Serpent through Sam for Soccer, trying to sidestep, will turn around the kill, but now he's back behind the speed buff, and Netroid will pick that one up. This base defense brought to you by Shinto on the Merlin.
Now Shinto can just sit back after that one, stretch for a little bit and be like, all right, guys, I just saved us the next, 3 minutes, 2 minutes until the Fire Giant fight. We don't have to worry about it just yet. So we can relax, finish off these items, and a lot of what was going for Rival early on, early gold lead, early experience lead. Well, hey, experience lead, there's 2 levels now. In the support, you can throw that out the window and take it with you. You don't need that anymore. Gold lead, it's still important, but look at the builds. I mean, you sell a couple of blessings and Sanguine have caught up here to Rival. Yep. These tier 2 towers are important for them. It could tie up the game.
Sanguine are just a few shots away from taking the middle lane tier 2 tower, and they are able to do so. And you bring up the builds, maybe a good time to do so. Maybe after FineOK is taken down, though, Painatom will move back in. FineOK will resent me for suggesting he's taken down and will disengage from here. But with Pythag's piece, Captain Twig loves the kind of double lifesteal build on this Oleron, a Yamoja. We've seen Shinto hit massive three groups of players with his abilities on this Merlin. Divine Ruin is going to be massive for spreading out a little of that anti-heal.
Yeah, we already talk about how great Merlin is at applying anti-heal and how Divine Ruin fits perfectly with him. But then you also now get no cooldown on your abilities right after you ult, which, hey, that means you throw out some abilities, switch stance, throw out even more abilities, one with no cooldown, so your damage potential is just skyrocketed. And you're applying it to Oleron. You're stopping Sam from getting those healing from his Pythax. You stop PBM from being able to heal the full team. Slowing it down a lot here, and it's just one guy. That's not even taking into account the contagion that's been built up or the Brawler's Beat Stick that they have to help slow it down too.
Well, it seems like Rival actually somehow behind after that Fire Giant play where Sanguine were able to stay alive. It's PBM that wants to engage on this fight. River's Rebuke will crash through. Wrong kind of push back. Sanford Soccer has found a double knock up in the back line right where this Hevo wants to be. Yarkor, again, very similar to what we saw from the World Serpent previously, will rain one or two charges down, but then will disengage finally at the end. That opens up the door, though, for Rival to lock down that Oni Fury. And another team fight with some fireworks, but no kills.
And they're going to be able to fall back. And what, 10 minutes ago, not even a full 10 minutes ago, it felt like Sanguine was nowhere near in this game. I mean, so much control was just lapsed away from them. Shinto, I don't want to say single-handedly because he definitely did it with the help of the team, but that right Phoenix defense absolutely swings things back into the realm of possibility for Sanguine. And now the way these last couple of engagements have gone, this next Fire Giant isn't a, oh yeah, Rival have it guaranteed. In fact, Sanguine might even be able to put the pressure down onto Rival and force them to make the play and make the tough call. Because the grouping right now, Sanguine could rope around and maybe grab up some ults, at least burn some beads, and make Rival kind of in an awkward position.
Panatom has been the big engager here. Rongyu has as well. Relic Dagger will allow him to blink forward a little bit more often. Captain Twig has to beads immediately as a result. We've seen that storyline a few times, but a Relic Dagger for Twig as well to keep those beads off of cooldown. Really, maybe, Gore, for the first time this game, we've actually seen Rival bullied off of an objective, and Sanguine will take it away.
And they don't even burn that much if you're Sanguine. I mean, you get one set of beads off of Rival, otherwise it's just kind of strong-arming them away. But this is what Sanguine does. We were talking about it at the very beginning of the game. Now we get to see it come to fruition, and that is the 5v5 team fight that Sanguine brings.
It's the EFG started up by Team Rival, down to half HP. Final K rather, is taken low as well. Has to leap out of the fight. Sanctified Field will drape over the backline of this fight. Sanford Soccer is in full disengage mode as well. Can Yarkor finish off Final K? Not this time. Spit has just dodged out, but Fire Giant never really healed all the way back up. Sanguine are going to move themselves in, take away this enhanced Fire Giant, and Goremizer, it looks like they're going to be able to disengage as well.
And that is such a huge strength. Now, you do have Oni minions pushing down your mid Phoenix and about to push down your left Phoenix, so you still have to fall back if you're Sanguine, and Wrong getting caught out here is huge. That's a great opening kill. Rival, they just turned that enhanced Fire Giant fight completely on its head. Sanguine technically have the advantage here, but in all intents and purposes, it is Rival in control of the game still.
Well, I'll stand corrected. 4 out of 5 members of Sanguine are able to disengage. PBM, a great Vortex will kind of lock in Rongyu off to the side there. So 35 seconds on the Sanguine support, but I guess at this point in the game, though, Goremizer, ideally you're keeping Fire Giant buff on all 5 members of your team. But if there is one player to kind of get caught back and lose that FG buff, maybe Wrongyu is the okay target there if you're Sanguine.
Yeah, and it's just because he's going to have enough health and tankiness built into his kit right now with the Contagion, the Sovereignty, a lot of physical defense coming through where there's a lot of magical damage, but it's really to stop Panda Cat more than anything, just to slow him down. But you got that health, you've got the tankiness, and again, maybe you lose the sustain from the Fire Giant buff, but you don't necessarily need it. A lot of what Wrongyu has been doing this game is blink in, ult, either get beads or get someone, and see what you can walk away with. I'm actually surprised to see Rival be as defensive as they are. I mean, they kind of recognize, you know what? If we push up, we might throw the fight. If we look for anything on the map, oh, well, we see the timers. There's nothing on the map. We're just going to go ahead and sit back under our Phoenixes, wait for Sanguine to come to us. They've got little under 2.5 minutes here to make this Fire Giant work for them. And otherwise, we're back to a stalemate, and it comes on to the next fight.
Right, and that feels so weird to say with how far ahead Rival were in this game. They were ahead by 10,000 gold at, 24, 25 minutes? All 3 Phoenixes open. At this point, it's still 5K, but gold leads go by the wayside. XP does as well when everyone is level 20. Everyone is at full build. It feels like a missed opportunity here to close out the game from Rival, and Sanguine have pulled it right back to a state of equity, and even more so have pushed Rival back to defending in their base for the first time this game.
You're actually seeing where the gold lead comes in handy here, and it is this ward coverage that's going to be coming through. Counter wards for Sanguine are going to be able to come up and maybe take some vision away from Rival, but Rival are going to be able to spend just a little bit more on vision all around, and so they'll know Sanguine's every move, maybe even before Sanguine take that move, so they can try to predict this defense a little bit better and try to win this fight just to stop this from, well, turning on its head.
Well, this one's ever so important. Rival really on their side of the map for the first time this game outside of the early laning phase. Yarkor taken down to half HP. It's a 2 versus 2 split fight here. Captain Twig into the Sanctified Field will disengage this fight just slightly as Wrong You will burn the shell. PBM has used the ultimate elsewhere on the map as well, so small engagements flaring up on either Phoenix. Some ultimates burnt, some relics burnt, Gormizer. A few ultimates left online, though, as well, for maybe a second win fight for Sanguine.
Yeah, a lot of beads gone for Rivals. So Sanguine, they have a little bit of an opening, but not a lot to control the pace of the fight. Shinto is stance switch, so that diamond means nothing over there. Netroid has the Suns,
right.
but is it going to make a huge difference for them? I think not. I think Rival do exactly what they need to, which was just survive the engagement, right? You lose a member there, then you lose a Phoenix, but everyone stays alive. They play just safe enough to make sure that they can still set up a defense. And now 15 seconds go by, that buff disappears on Fire Giant, Primal Fury's open, and depending on how these teams are feeling, one either sacrifices that and is planning on the Fire Giant Pyromancer dance, or we see what happened last time, which is a kind of tug of war over who can control this left side of the map, and whoever gets that first burst of damage onto somebody on the other side can then rotate over for the Fire Giant.
And you know, obviously, so importantly, we're now in this late game stage where we figured Rival would be massively scaled on this Ola run. I mean, obviously, everyone's complete build, you know, all of that. So regardless of KDA, everyone is in their late game state. But Netroid has really come back into this game as well. Full crit on that Hu Yi. Sanguine will take away that Primal Fury. So small win here. Can they win the rest of this fight, though? Captain Twig, another defensive Sanctified Field. PBM will lock in just a couple. Panatom and Wrong You still moving forward, though. It's Fine OK who will turn around the damage over onto the Naja. Rival not shying away from this fight, but neither is Sanguine. Shinto there just for a little bit of peel in. Yarkor has the World Serpent for some disengage as well. Sanguine peel away that Fury, and it looks like they're going to get out alive as well.
I love that wall from PBM and being able to stop Wrong You in his tracks from getting into the backline. I think it slows down Sanguine and stops them from potentially turning that fight in their favor. And while it does kind of feel like a turntail and run situation for them, you have to look at the small wins they're having, the things that Rival were able to pick on early but haven't been able to do lately. Panatom is difficult to kill. He's got a lot of health and a little bit of protections in this build, so you can't just pick on the jungler. Same thing for Yarkor, same thing for Wrong You. With their ults not available, yeah, you can look to burn them down. I think Rival have the advantage going into the FG fight, but it's still a dangerous game to try and get aggressive here.
It's another River's Rebuke, rather, from PBM to lock in. Yarkor does not have the World Serpent to escape this time, and Sam for Soccer will be the beneficiary. So it's a 5 versus 4 on the Fire Giant, maybe, from Team Rival if they choose to start it up, but Fine OK has been plugged down quite low as well. This is one that Sanguine might still feel comfortable moving up and contesting.
You can tell who they've been fighting on Sanguine based on their build, and Yarkor, hey, if that's Captain Twig, then he doesn't burn through him anywhere near as fast. If it's Panda Cat, he punches him down into the ground much like they did, and World Serpent being just delayed there because they burned it earlier, this looks like a free FG.
Rival will pull back the game now into their favor. Enhanced Fire Giant online for them. 3 Phoenixes open as they have been for the last 15 minutes or so for Team Rival. Maybe the big turnaround in this game is the last time we saw an attempted Phoenix Siege from Rival, where just a catch-out onto Captain Twig really turned things around. It looks like a full 5-man push down this right-hand side.
It's whether or not they want to stick with this. Watching Twig's movement more than anything as to where they go, but Rival are going to be going in. That's another Rivers review.
Sanford Soccer looking for the execute, but Panatom has lifted him to the skies here. Shinto will delete Sanford Soccer. Massive damage mitigated now from this fight for Rival, and they're going to try to retreat away. Final K stunned down, taken down Shinto. He's got a double underneath this Phoenix. He did it last time. He's going to do it here again this time. Gormizer, Sanguine are on the chase.
And if they can pick up one more kill, they might not even need the next kill to be able to burn this down. I don't care if you want this tier 2 or not. You could probably even ignore it if you're Sanguine. Run it down mid. They're in a position to put pressure on the Titan, Dave.
There's 3 members alive for Rival. Granted, all 3 have Fire Giant, but you've got Netrioid, who's going to be swinging. Panatom, Shinto, the whole suite of utility up and available for Sanguine. Back behind the Titan go the last living members of Rival. Captain Twig and Yarkor doing battle over on the right-hand side, and Captain Twig, he's going to win that fight, but the Olaran is out of the engagement here. Captain Twig, he has to return back to base. Sanguine 4 members strong on the Titan, and they're eviscerating the health bar Sanguine. They're going to turn this game around and take game number 1.
And that comes down to 2 right side Phoenix defenses. That's what Sanguine have that game that really keep them alive in this. And first time it was Shinto. The second time, I want to say it was a little bit of everybody. Panatom pulling Sanford Soccer out of there. They melted his health bar almost instantly when they landed. I think the prep from Sanguine on that defense was exactly what they needed to rein back control, especially against a team with enhanced Fire Giant. And Rival, I mean, they controlled that game. They had the lead for so long. But hey, Sanguine have that 5v5 team fight.
And this was kind of a weird game in that it was a 10k gold lead, and there's not this just big, massive Fire Giant steal or a massive team fight throw. It's just one pick here delays the game, one pick there delays the game, and Sanguine roll their way right back into it. This one goes a touch over 40 minutes, but it's Sanguine turning it around and capturing game number 1. John Finch, what do you make of it?
Well, I think that Shinto comes out of that game looking like a king, Dulcin. And hey, when you're talking about kings, what better to talk about than the throne? Hard to think of a better throne than one of these Maxonomic chairs. I'm trying my best in Dulcin's absence to try and make a fun ad read for you guys, but clearly I'm just a cheap imitation. But do not settle for imitations out there, chat. Pick up one of these chairs using code SMITEMAX and make sure that you're taking care of your rear end. It deserves a little bit of love, right? I mean, maybe so when you're picking up your nicest chair. We'll let Dave do those from now on. I don't know if that's really my thing. I got Mifflin here with me, though, on the desk. One thing I know we can do is break down this set, Mifflin, and what went wrong here for Rival. They were in control of that game. However long the game was, that amount of time, it felt like, even at the end of it when Sanguine won. How did this suddenly end up going Sanguine's way?
I mean, Gore really nailed it. Sanguine was just able to prolong the game just enough time to make sure that they reach all level 20. And when all 5 members of Sanguine are level 20, it's hard to bet against them. Rival was up 10k gold at about 20 minutes in. Panicat has a fantastic early game. He's able to rotate out, make sure he's able to establish that lead. He goes largely uncontested. In the first 30 minutes, no deaths, has a couple kills under his belt, establishes a huge lead. But it's just Sanguine able to continuously repel these pushes, just elongate the match just long enough where they can come together and find a dub.
It was the Phoenix Siege of the game. That was where Rival were really struggling, and it's just as you said, these strong defenses from Sanguine were proving to be a bit too much, and Shinto was a huge part of it by providing almost double the damage of the next closest person on his team. He eclipsed them. They didn't even show up in the rearview mirror in terms of just raw output, but I do think they had plenty of value from them as well. Netroid's Sons made it really hard for Rival to find those right moments on the engages. Panatom was time and time again finding the right person with his ultimate, a priority target to make sure that Shinto had the right damage for that follow-up afterwards. This was a tough one, man, for Rival. I don't know how else to describe it. They got to a great start in this game, and by all accounts, that's when they should be closing out 9 times out of 10.
It's just a lack of engage from Rival's comp makes it so hard for them to break into those Phoenix Sieges. I mean, 22 minutes in, 10,000 gold on the lead. It's going to be hard to say that any team's really going to be capable of coming back from that. But Sanguine, and mainly Shinto, is just absolutely decimating and eviscerating the competition with raw player damage. Panatom has a fantastic game, as you point out. He does find some huge priority ultimates to set up for his boy. But that really was the Shinto show in my mind.
That's what it felt like to me, too, at least from where I was sitting. So game number 1, surprisingly, if you left it at 22-minute mark, it goes to Sanguine. On to game number 2, at the very least, on to those picks and bans, so you can see which gods they're going to be taking into the battleground here with them. And I wonder if Merlin will be permitted to fall into Shinto's hands again. The thing is, though, that Rival are doing a lot of target bans. They're taking away things like the Jingwei and the Raijin to try and limit what Sanguine can do. I don't know how much more they can afford to try and target out specific player picks in these first 3 bans.
Well, it seems like they did a good enough job of shutting down Netroid. He had a really quiet game there, wasn't quite able to pull that same performance on the Huyi that he was against SSG. So maybe continue with the Jingwei ban, but make sure that Shinto doesn't get his boy Merlin again. That performance was just so absolutely crippling that I don't think Rivals should or will feel comfortable letting it through.
And I do also want to see Rival prioritize some kind of engage here, right, Mifflin? I mean, that was part of the problem. I think the Rivers Rebukes from Polar Bear Mike were actually really sick all game long, but it wasn't quite the same thing as maybe something that was going to guarantee a big pick off of that crowd control, right? The way that I think of Athena taunt in the late game, they didn't quite have that same kind of cooldown at their disposal.
The Rivers Rebuke were sick, though. I'm glad you bring it up. 30 minutes in, he sets one up around the gold free where he makes just one small opening to exit through, and he drops his 3 there as well. I was so utterly impressed by that Yamoja play. It's hard to pin it on lack of engage when someone's performing that well on Yamoja, but I think you're absolutely right. They had no way to dive deep onto these Phoenixes. Once the 5-man stack of Sanguine grouped up around a Phoenix, you can't rely on Rivers Rebuke to separate the team fight when all 5 members of Sanguine are grouped up around that central objective. If they find something else out of the soul lane or maybe out of your jungler, maybe a Susano to help you out with some of that engage instead of a standard mage in this Hebo, you might be able to make up for some of that weakness in the Yamoja, but you need some sort of engage on your comp, especially if you're looking to end a game.
Well, those 2 that we just got through highlighting, PBM and Shinto, looks like they'll be getting the same tools coming to game number 2. At the very least, the Yamoja's locked in, the Merlin being hovered over there for Sanguine, and I cannot think of very many good reasons not to grab it at this point after the game that Shinto had. So it will be locked in once more, but I think Rival have got to come up with some kind of answer. And you mentioned the Hebo. I mean, I don't think that it played poorly in that game, but I do wonder if that's where they were missing some of that backline dive potential that could have opened this game up a bit more for them in the late game.
Just any form of CC, you have to find it somewhere in your team comp. It doesn't have to be out of the jungle. You can go something like a Sobek in the Soul Lane or a Hercules somewhere else. Just make sure that you have some way to make your way in. Having multiple win conditions is absolutely fine. Oleron and Hebo, both completely potent gods in the late game. It just didn't really have any cohesion with the comp. Jing Shen's going to be able to open up those team fights a little bit more, have those standard CC routes and a huge CC immune ultimate, washing machine up the enemies. I like this pickup for Rival.
And I wonder if it gives them some flex potential. Between the Xingqian and the Yamoja, which one do you think is a bit more likely to end up in that solo lane? I imagine one of them is going.
I'm leaning towards Xingqian. I really do like what he can bring over there. It's almost akin to what Jormungandr does. It's almost akin to Sun Wukong. He's got a ton of HP 5 in his kit. He's able to sit there very safely. He's got the double jump and the CC immunity on the ultimate to escape out of any sticky situations. Yamoja left alone on an island, that's free gank food. Xingqian, not quite as much.
So perhaps that will be the call here. They will give Panda Cat the Uller yet again. And for what it's worth, Panda Cat had a fantastic game on the Uller. He was a big part of why that early to mid game went so well for Team Rival. They just kind of fell apart a bit in that late game when they ran into the Sanguine wall of Phoenix defense they just could not get past. Sanguine, on the other hand, though, adding a Horus in here for them, and they're going to reprise that role of Panatom on the Ho-Yi. Do you like that Horus support pickup here for Sanguine's normal playstyle?
When Sanguine play it, they play him a lot more aggressively than enemy teams. Like, when you think of Horus, my mind immediately goes towards EU United, and they're splitting up the map. They're grouping up as 4 on Goldfree to drag the enemies there and then teleport to Fire Giant, or group up on one Phoenix and then teleport to the other one. And I haven't seen that level of Horus play from Sanguine. What I have seen is fantastic utilization of the rest of his kit inside of team fights, and I think it's going to be a fantastic tool for trying to lock down Uller. If you catch out Yamoja at any point, they should be able to blow him off of the back of that CC. Horus is an incredibly strong god, and the healing in his kit is going to allow him to match a little bit of what Yamoja is able to bring.
Well, look at all these jungle bans. I'm even going to include Camazotz in there for 6 total potential jungle bans that have happened here in this game. And now the Serket picked up as well does limit those options. I mean, again, Unbot seems to have been a bit, kind of forgotten here in all of this. I mean, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't necessarily fit in to this draft for Rival. but the Poseidon being hovered. We've seen some Poseidon jungle and some Poseidon mid. I feel like that's more likely to end up with Twig than Sam.
Yeah, Twig has shown ample amount of Poseidon play this year. I know that he can play it. I know that Sam's got a huge god pool, so these 6 jungle bans shouldn't deter him even a little bit. I want to see some sort of engagement out of the jungle, and Erlang Shen does bring it. Long-range engage with a pin, knock up on the 3rd ability, and a taunt on the ultimate. They've got ways to make sure that they can win a game if they establish a lead now. Rival seems like they've really identified the fault in their last draft.
Plus, it gives them objective confirmation, too, with that Kraken, and I don't know that necessarily gets matched by Sanguine. They've got great objective burn and space denial, but I don't think they're going to be able to beat that actual confirmation from that Kraken itself. Sanguine round out this draft here with the Terra, a pick I know that you're a big fan of here. You think that this does enough for Sanguine?
It's going to stop a lot of that aggression that Rivals got. Jing Shen and Erlang diving to your backline. Terra could just drop her ultimate and say, all right, word, good luck. They're going to get a huge burst heal when you start hitting them, and you're going to take some additional damage when they start hitting you. Terra's just a really strong pickup. So much utility there. She's got engage, and she's got counter engagement as well. This should be a pretty exciting game.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be heading over to Yarkor. We'll get our chance to see, though. Rival and Sanguine. It's going to be Dulcin and Gormizer to bring us the Game 2 action.
We sure are, and from a neutral perspective, Gore, I think more of the same, please, from game number 1. The back and forth, the action, it was so exciting to watch, and I think Sanguine maybe thanking Rival for the way that game 1 went. Now looking at game number 2, some changes, some not changed, most notably maybe a Shinto right back on that Merlin. But PBM, I think, at least for the early game, we need to follow him, and it's for reasons like this. The unbridled aggression here in the early when he's playing this Yemoja can't be understated. Already forcing beads away from Netrioid. They're going to send Rongyu over to purple just to lock it down. But PBM just brings that extra little something here in the early.
I like the way Sanguine handle it because, I mean, it sucks to lose your beads that early on, especially against Sam, who's more than likely going to be able to get aggressive now in that left lane. But it does, you know, they at least approach it the right way, right? Hey, I'm going to farm up the lane if I'm Netrioid, and hey, I'm going to farm up the purple buff if I'm Rongyu.
Gore, what is happening right now? It's chaos all over the map. Beads burnt left and right. Captain Twig has to burn the beads as Panatom rotated through. Now, Sanford Soccer and PBM make their way over to the red buff, and it looks like they're able to steal it away as well. All right, take a deep breath, everyone. Let's take some inventory here. Shinto, beads burnt. Netrioid, beads burnt a few moments ago, and Captain Twig as well. Ganked on, had to burn his beads as Panatom used the blinks, and for Soccer did as well. Relics all over the map. Both teams looking to make plays a minute and a half in.
And honestly, it's because of what happened last game. They recognize where they can go, and Sanguine aren't as timid anymore, and with Final K getting stunned out here, this could be a good CC chain.
Oh, that's a good route, and the dash is out. The double dash just for a little extra safety. Panatom not pulling any punches here. Returns, not necessarily to a mid lane gank, but to his gank form. Makes his way over to the solo lane, and Final K has to dash away.
Definitely different from what we got to see out of the Naja last game, right? Naja was pretty slow early on. There was, one attempt on Panda Cat's life kind of early in the game, and then other than that, Panatom was kind of missing in a lot of those team fights. This time around, he's been ever present. Forcing this Poseidon's beads early on means that there's open gank potential there, but unfortunately, the amount of ganks he's been doing kind of left him behind in terms of XP, and Sam is going to take the lead there.
And now a different look as well. We drew some similarities, obviously. Shinto, PBM, Panda Cat, Netrioid, and Rongyu. That's tried and true here for Sanguine. In the solo lane, just purely based on gods, we're going to get a different look. Terra, Xingqian normally move themselves over into that support role. Do you think that changes that dynamic, though, really, in that solo lane? Obviously, we've seen Panatom open to ganking here pre-level 5. But realistically, maybe it just requires a gank for somebody to move in and grab a kill there.
It is exactly that. It's almost dependent on the junglers and how much attention they want to get over there. Because, hey, they're Guardians. They're natural scaling. It's going to be harder to burn through. They're going to be naturally tankier. Those are two picks that translate great into late-game team fights. But they aren't necessarily the most entertaining fights to watch in the, 15, 20 minutes it will take to get there. Maybe Final K making some earlier rotations because of his, big impact ult. Same thing actually could be said for Yarkor. But it is built around that team fight. That second Guardian, that presence that's going to be coming through, is to control the jungle a little bit better. Terra, it's the healing that you're going to be able to get out of her, plus the stuns that she can have in the jungle. For Fine OK, it's the same thing we saw at a Xing Chen last game, except this time now being able to kind of work with the Yamoja when you lock people into that River's Rebuke.
And you know, I think I'd be remiss if not mentioning now the second red buff being taken away from Sanguine. It is just this insatiable desire from PBM to rotate into these jungles. Same exact thing we saw from Rival. In game number 1, Captain Twig has the Kraken. Shinto doesn't have the Aegis, though. Beads is, but you don't bead out the damage. And Team Rival will find first blood thanks to Captain Twig and some burst damage.
And that's why there's always that opening conversation. Which one do you want against Poseidon? The beads saved his life a little earlier, but like you said, it's no Aegis. It's not going to stop that Kraken from outright killing you. And maybe he could run a little faster, get out of the zone just enough to walk away, but the pressure that's been put onto Shinto this game, I think, showcases how important he was last game. That Merlin kind of was slow coasting in the early game last time around. Not a lot of pressure on him. He's hard to lock down. This time, they don't want him to have anywhere near that performance. Lock him down early, make sure he can't feel anywhere near as comfortable, and it makes it a little easier for Twig to bully in that lane.
I mean, the coordination is clear here between Sam and PBM. They group up the moment the red buff comes online to take that away, and now grouping up again the moment the purple buff comes online. It seems like nothing on this left side of the jungle is safe, and maybe nothing on the left side of the map is safe, as PBM will tremble out a couple low health bars. Can Panda Cat find the final damage? Sanford Soccer has left. Underneath their tower they are. The rotations are through, but instead it's just over to the red buff here for Rival, not risking this tier 1 tower dive. Gora, I think Sanguine now are 0 for 3 on these red buffs here in the early game.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to get this aggressive this early on, they're controlling it. But I'm kind of timid to say it's going to lead to anything because of the way last game went. It's just something that Sanguine kind of understand that they are giving up here. Again, their strengths, especially lately, haven't really been the first 15 minutes. Sometimes you could even ignore the first 20 minutes of a Sanguine game and still see them turn it around. I'd love to see them find a better grip on this, try to slow things, and more importantly, around Panda Cat down, because his rotations early game last time were exactly what gave Rival the control they needed around the Furies that then led to some of those early Fire Giants. But stop Sam, stop Twig from being as big. I mean, already a level lead for both of those gods and players. You have to find some control, otherwise you're relying on a game going 40 minutes, and that's a really hard bet to take.
And on the inverse of that, I think, you know, keeping Shinto down is important here for Rival as well. Remember, in game number 1, I mean, it's the story we've been following since game 1. 10,000 gold lead, 22 to 25 minutes in, but it's Shinto who is still there. We even talked about it. You know, Shinto's doing the most damage in the game. He's kind of hanging around. This Merlin is hitting all of the strides it needs to. He has that Divine Ruin, spreading out the anti-heal that was so important against Rival. So having a solo kill in this game for first blood, especially onto Shinto, might be best case scenario for Rival.
Yeah, I mean, again, keep him locked down, finding an early kill. Once you hit level 12 as Shinto, you're going to have that Aegis online, so the Kraken's not going to be anywhere near as potent.
Sunbreaker from Netrioid. He's been pushed all the way beneath his tier 1 tower. Not sure he's been able to leave, and wouldn't you guess it, Rival have moved themselves over to the purple buff to take that away. It looks like at this point, though, Wrong You has just kind of said, okay, I don't know if there's much for me here in this lane, or really on this side of the map, as the 4th red buff in a row will drop down in favor of Team Rival, and they're just going to leave Netrioid to his own devices and try to farm up.
Well, I like watching Panatom right now because he's the one that I wanted to see more ganks out of, more control come out of, and well, right now he's invading, getting some experience back, and might actually be able to pick up Twig on the retreat here, but that's a big old Kraken in return.
That is plenty of damage, enough to make you think twice about being on this side of the map. Panatom is low, Sanford Soccer rotating through, but Shinto is there as well. Doubt there's really any follow-up to be had. Instead, maybe it's Sanford Soccer that will just take a little plug damage from Shinto on his way out. So Captain Twig now showing us 1 kill online, Cursed Orb in his back pocket, 1 Kraken and 1 rotation of abilities is nearly enough to delete anyone. Or not anyone, but, you know, Panatom, maybe Shinto or Netrioid once some of these fights break out.
Honestly, I think you could even throw Rongyu under the bus there, like to be someone who is, vulnerable to a big Kraken early on still. He needs a little bit more defense to make sure that he's going to be able to withstand it, because, again, while Horus feels more like a Guardian, he's still a warrior, and early on it does still hurt to be hit by a mage as big as Twig is right now. Again, just a level lead in mid, but you're looking at 5 levels if he goes against the support, 3 levels against the carry, and 4 levels there against the jungle. So no matter what kind of rotation, Twig is a little bit of a raid boss right now to deal with, and Sanguine don't seem like they've been doing their dailies in order to get here and take care of him just yet.
He's the 4-1 raid boss, where in the late game you're scoffing at what he's doing now, but for right now, he's the guy you've got to deal with. Dumorb seems to be the popular pickup for just this massive power spike early on and just get things rolling in your favor. Obviously, it was Sam for Soccer on the Hebo in Game 1 that picked up Dumorb in the jungle. Now Captain Twig likely building to that on the back of, or building to that on the back of that Cursed Orb. Maybe opens up the door here for Rival. You see all the pressure they've had in the long lane on this left-hand side of the map, just between the buffs. Or now it's going to be a completely free Gold Fury taken away by Rival. Pyromancer will respawn, and maybe Sanguine are going to try to pull that one back.
Yeah, they have to wait for it to spawn. It's the most awkward, 15 seconds that they've been sitting over here. Normally, this is like the exact call you want, but having to wait until that 10-minute mark finally comes online. FG spawns into the map as well. So, hey, they do get the trade, the Pyro for gold, that is, the consolation prize of SMITE when it comes down to it. Pyro's not bad, but it's not going to help you out, especially this early, anywhere near as much as that Gold Fury is for Rival. And realistically, that's where Sanguine have to find these objectives more than anything. Shinto, we've had this conversation a million times about Merlin. He burns objectives down like no other. But you know what is one of the most OG secures in the game? It is that Kraken on the other side. Twig, if he is anywhere near an objective while he has his ult available, he's either winning a team fight or stealing it away from you. Sanguine have to win in order to feel like they actually have secure control on any objective in the game.
Great point. And now Captain Twig might be able to secure a kill here as Panatom is stunned down, and PBM will rotate through for the easiest kill of his life. Perfect 3-man rotation there from Team Rival. That's the 3-man group we so often talk about, not only for Rival, but just in the game in general. Jungler, support, and mid laner. Captain Twig will pour out some damage. Rongyu will catch that. So the support level differential now grows even wider. Pandacat stunned down. Could be a bait, though, for Netrioid. He'll leap out, so no follow-up there. But is a 3-level difference as we stand in that support role. Rongyu has just kind of been floating, looking for something to do.
And honestly, the last few times we've seen Rongyu on this horse, it hasn't impressed as much as it used to. It used to be the talk of the town. It was running the show for Sanguine, and now he's, again, kind of getting thrown to the wayside. That 3-level difference is showcasing how big PBM is in these engagements, how big River's Rebuke is in opening this up. Rongyu has used his ult sometimes for vision, sometimes for repositioning, but it's never been in a way that's been positive for Sanguine. It's just been net neutral overall. So changing around his aspect and playstyle in this game, maybe it comes with the tankiness and the items, but as of right now, there needs to be more from it.
There's a 3,000 gold differential here for Team Rival. About 1,000 of it is Captain Twig over literally anyone else in the game, but his counterpart in Shinto is 1,000 gold behind. Pandacat will rotate over to this mid lane for kind of the first time in this game, and the level 8 Rongyu will catch a lot of that damage. Panatom hanging by the wayside, but Final K is there to spot him out. A bit of a moving ward as Panatom will leap away. And this is always the fear. There's been so much pressure in the long lane. What happens when Rival rotate over to the mid lane? You might just have to forfeit this tier 1 tower. Netroid will continue to push down in that long lane, and Rival happy just to take the tower and get away.
It's probably easy to meme Netrioid. You look at some of the picks he plays, they come through all the time. You look at the fact that it feels like whenever Sanguine have a team fight before 25 minutes, he seems to be over there split pushing in duo. But that's part of what is helping Sanguine win the comeback in these engagements, right? And a lot of these fights, that tier 2 tower still being up, or even the tier 1 in left lane, makes it impossible for Sanguine to rush down the Titan the way they did last game. But Netrioid chilling over there, split pushing, even though maybe it does cost his team a team fight early on, keeps them in the conversation of gold, but most importantly, it keeps them in conversation of map control. keeps that Phoenix exposed. And while right now it's not even a tower, keep your eyes on that left-hand lane, because if he's sitting over there just chilling, it's still dangerous for Rival.
Well, he's got no rage to stack just yet, right? So once that comes online, that's where maybe the rotations are for Netrioid. Maybe the next item on his list after Executioner. PBM far forward, taken down. First kill of the game now by Sanguine to the skies. For Wrong You will rotate over to the mid lane. Captain Twig, he's now stunned. Kraken for disengage, and it'll do a plenty fine job at doing that. Team Rival overextend just a touch and get Sanguine on the board.
Yeah, but if I'm Sanguine, I'm happy to see that Kraken uses the disengage. Phantom goes back in, uses the ult, but trades out his life. Sam has a huge turnaround.
Yeah, but the chase is on now. Can Sanford Soccer live? I don't think so. Wrong You in range, and he'll get a kill now, pulling back a little bit of that level discrepancy. Captain Twig, no Kraken, but plenty of damage alongside Panda Cat. Shinto is low. Into the Heartbeat Pit he goes. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel will just delay it, but a flicker comes off a cooldown in time. Wrong You still in range. Captain Twig snags that one. Yeah, Sanguine get a couple of kills, but Rival pull back 3 more.
Sanguine had some pretty big false hope there. They win the initial engagement, and then they overcommit and end up costing way too much for them. Shinto is able to walk out alive, but now the Primal Fury seems to be on the chopping block for Team Rival, so they can turn that one down. And, you know, the one thing I was going to highlight was the fact that, hey, Wrong you mentioned it, did close that level gap a little bit. Instead of 3 levels behind, now it's only 1. Unfortunately, they've made that trade elsewhere here for Sanguine. Panatom is now 3 levels behind instead of 1, and the jungle, as of right now, Panatom has been Beads Burner extraordinaire. I don't think I'm seeing too much come out of him. Maybe the anti-heal there helped get the kill on Sam for Soccer, but a lot of it is, can I get in there and force Twig to use his beads, and maybe lock down somebody else? One with my taunt, one with maybe my ult to try and find the lockdown. Either way, it's going to be able to find something in terms of relics, but as far as damage goes, he's not necessarily the one I'm going to. He's just barely above the Horus.
Yeah, and that discrepancy coming at the hand of Sam for Soccer on the Erlong Shen here in this game. Obviously, we've talked about variety for Sam, but one thing that has seemed consistent, maybe back to that in a moment, is Shinto will rotate through. A small slow onto Panda Cat. The axe will not connect Panda. A nice sidestep there. Netrioid will leap in. A gets used, and the ultimate might just be the final undoing as Netrioid will grab a kill. 1-0-2 now on this Huyi. Pyromancer, though, opened up here for Team Rival. But kind of back to the thoughts on Sam. One thing that does seem consistent are these big assassin picks that he has. Yeah. Despite some variety, I think it's worth mentioning that an Erlong Shen, despite having been played recently by Sam, is somewhat of a difference from maybe that dive in, carry these games. Might not get a moment to comment on that as a Kraken from Captain Twig will set up Sam for Soccer. Wrong You dashes away as well. The double dash, thanks to the 2 and 3 there, will keep him alive. Sam for Soccer is going to be rooted down by Yarkor, and that may be all she wrote for Sam. And Shinto will plug up another kill. So Sanguine finding these small wins, but it is just a 1-for-1 trade.
Poseidon loves narrow jungle corridors. There's nothing else about it. Hey, I can throw down my Whirlpool or my Kraken, and it's guaranteed damage because you're locked up here. Granted, it's still a jungle for jungle trade, so maybe beneficial for Sanguine to only lose 1 in that engagement. That's the bright side of looking at it, and they're trying to keep up everywhere else they are. Again, level leads still exist for Rival. Are difficult to overcome, but when you're trying to find the pressure, this is the same control Rival had at last game. 2 kills, a little bit of gold. The tower is definitely going their way. It's how you retaliate here as Sanguine, which is going to come down to Yarkor. I mean, we haven't gotten to see too much from him in terms of rotations. Obviously, Panatom has a lot of work for this game cut out for him with a 2-level lead now in the jungle, but he just hit level 12 to get that second relic, so maybe going to be able to play a bigger factor coming here soon.
Whoa. Panda Cat, I think, caught a little bit more damage than he bargained for here. Netrioid on the chase. PBM just playing Divider. Oh, the ricochet is massive. Netrioid from range will knock down Panda Cat. You can't dodge that one. What a shot from Netrioid for the second kill of the game.
I am flabbergasted. Words not even able to come to my mind immediately. Panda Cat, in my mind, he's out of there. Like, I don't think anybody's watching for that. I'm like, okay, yeah, you can maybe stun off PBM and you could get a kill here. That's just a beautiful ricochet. That's something only Huyi can give you at a time like that and exactly when he needs it. Now they can maybe get aggressive with no Panda Cat. Gives a little bit of an advantage to Sanguine.
No Panda Cat, Sanford Soccer taken low. 9 turns Blessing used over onto Panatom. This is the full-on engage from Sanguine underneath the tier 1 tower. Panatom just off to the side though. He's on his own. A killing spree for Captain Twig. No Kraken though for the re-engage. Panda Cat just now returning from base. Blink forward from Sam. Netrioid has to Aegis to avoid the damage, and that's a pullback from Shinto, nearly pulling back a kill here. Captain Twig will finally get rid of the pesky Hu Yi, and that's a massive swing for Rival. 4 kills now on this Poseidon.
Twig is level 19. Panatom is level 12. Let the math speak for itself there. It's 7-level differential. If Twig sees Panatom, Panatom is dead. And there's so many moments there. I mean, if I'm Panatom, you pull 2 members from Rival onto you. You're a level 12 Circuit. You're an easy kill. They don't need to commit 2 guys to kill you off. And with Panda Cat not in the fight, that means it's a 4v2 for Sanguine, and they didn't have anything.
Hello, Wrong You, to the skies, but doesn't bring any of his team with him. Shinto in range. Oh, and he steals it away from over the wall. These low percentage plays keep playing off. Shinto strips the FG away. Team Rival, now with maybe a little bit of vengeance in mind, will get rid of the Merlin. Only 2 FG buffs remain, but maybe that's not even what Sanguine are looking for. This game, it just got delayed.
And you know what? You couldn't have worded it better. If there's anything Sanguine can do, it is just delay the game until any early game lead you had means nothing to them. Hey, yeah, you know what? Twig, you might be level 20 already, but if we can stall this game until Panatom hits 20, since he's the one that's furthest behind, then, well, guess what? We have the ability to come through. And once again, at least the first time this time around for Sanguine, it is Shinto of all people who are able to make the play that saves it. With no Kraken available, like you highlighted,
yep.
That's the only reason that was in the realm of possibility for Sanguine.
And I'm thinking, no chance. You notice Wrong You goes in, but Shinto is able to plug the damage from over the wall. How much does that change in kind of the tug and pull of this game? I'm not sure much. Again, maybe it just slows down Rival here, and Oni Fury will not be stripped away by Sanguine here, and Rival want to continue maybe the onslaught. Netrioid underneath Fino K will be able to leap out. Sanford Soccer, though, doing battle with Panatom. Wrong You is forfeit here, but so is Sanford Soccer. A 1-for-1 trade as Shinto is continuing to start to cycle up in these games and snags a kill for Sanguine.
Look, you're not going to make many positive trades if you're Sanguine in a lot of these team fights just because of the level disparity that Team Rival have created, but that's one of the biggest ones. The level 17 jungler for your level 12 support. Kill Wrong You any day of the week to be able to get that online. Your focus, on all honesty, is probably getting Netrioid comfortable and back to that level 18 to close the gap between him and Panda Cat, and try to get Shinto to just keep doing him. Keep doing what Shinto was doing in Game 1, keep doing what Shinto's doing so far in Game 2. Just keep him comfortable and happy, and I think things can go well for Sanguine.
Rival might need to look for an engagement onto that Merlin. Easier said than done. It's Yarkor here that's being jumped on, and Fino K will finish off that kill. Panatom, though, will leap back through. Some damage over onto Fino, but it's still now Oni waves pouring in the mid lane, moving up the short lane side, and this will be a free tier 2 tower for Rival.
And Netrioid going to give up the split pushing to be able to back, and I think maybe even baits Sanford Soccer over there to the left lane, so creates a little bit of a disparity in terms of fight potential here on the right-hand side for Sanguine, but they just don't have it in time to be able to save that tier 2. Now we're looking at the maybe, 2 minutes, I guess, for Rival until Fire Giant comes back up. They can try to knock down one more tier 2, but I had mentioned this last game, Phoenix Sieges aren't necessarily the easiest thing, especially without Fire Giant. They become immensely more difficult. So Rival are going to be waiting this out. 24 minutes is the big timer for them. That Fire Giant will come back up, and it is the key to being able to keep this lead in their control. Otherwise, if Sanguine can do anything with it, we're just back where we were, much like Game 1, into the realm of Sanguine still being able to win it.
Gore, this really feels just like the battle of mid laners here, where Shinto has clawed Sanguine back into this game. Captain Twig is 5-0-6 for Rival. You look at the damage charts, Shinto ahead by 3,000 over Twig, but Twig ahead by 6,000, 6,000 over anyone else in this game, with Netrioid just behind him. Panda Cat very close there as well. It kind of seems like who can find an engage onto Poseidon, who can find an engage onto Shinto, and that might be the massive difference maker here. Rival are the ones looking for the engage now, and it was Shinto just behind the portal there from PBM, so lucky not to have stepped into it. They go fishing, but they don't reel in the big one.
They're just, well, relaxing right now in the boat, right? Waiting for Sanguine to, well, bite off more than they can chew, find themselves in a bad position. But again, it's the 50-second timer right behind them. Look how much control they have on the right-hand side of the jungle right now. And admittedly, I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. Sam has gone a little tankier. A couple of Witchblades there at the very end to help deal with some slows that will be applied on the side of Sanguine. And if Twig wasn't bursting you down before, now he's got enough pin to be able to melt through anyone, even the tankiest members of Sanguine with that Obsidian Shard now online. It's becoming, again, a very kind of hairpin game here for Sanguine. They have a lot of potential to fight back into this, but just the damage numbers, if Rival get the engagement they want, which so far I would say, 6 times out of 7 happens, it's like a roughly high percentage for them, but there's still that little window of opportunity for Sanguine to come in, and I think there's a little bit of pressure on Panatom and Rong Yu more than anybody, because they're the ones who haven't necessarily been showing up with the rest of the team.
I don't think it's ridiculous to say there's a world where this game is already over right now. We're talking picks and bans for Game 3 if Shinto doesn't strip away that Fire Giant. But he does. So we're still here in Game 2, 24 minutes in. FG just now springing back. Team Rival going to have plenty of level 20 players before anyone else in the game. Captain Twig uses beads and the Kraken. Massive tools now missing from this fight, but Rival don't seem dissuaded. Panatom very low, Sunbreaker down, just to try to slow down the Rival engagement. It does just that. Watch out though, Rong Yu to the skies. You can follow that little Horus portrait, and he's just going to move himself over to the blue buff side of the map. So no re-engage there from Sanguine. Maybe a big difference maker, though, Gormizer. We talk about these mid laners being targets. Twig has no beads.
And that's huge. No beads, no Kraken either. This Fire Giant's just as risky as the first one. Yarkor and Rong Yu are in the area this time around, and that River's Rebuke isn't enough to lock him away.
Can Sanguine do it again? Rival peel off the FG. Rong Yu, though, he's going to turn around. Captain Twig, Panda Cat, they found a couple kills. FG might not matter if you just win the rest of the fight instead. Fino taken quite low beneath the Fire Giant. Rong Yu is on the chase. Panda Cat there for some peel. That's a stun down onto the Rival Hunter. Sanford Soccer trying to 2v1 in the backline, unable to do so. Rong Yu, the side steps are in. Panda Cat, he hits the final shot. It's a 3 for 2 with Rival walking away just ahead.
Rong Yu changed it to his juke shoes for this game to make sure that he was able to kind of stay alive just long enough there to help the fight continue going in their favor. Finoke's in the wrong spot between Shinto and Netrioid. That's a lot of burst damage that can come through.
Ooh.
They're lucky to be able to walk away right now as Rival. This is still dangerous for Sanguine.
Rival want to keep going, but so does Netrioid. Has to burn the beads. Won't have time for the Aegis. Finoke will get the kill. Shinto now full on retreat mode. Will use the flicker. PBM nearly able to pull him back. That's another River's Rebuke here. Shinto on the fadeaway. He's got a double kill. You gotta be kidding me. Finally, PBM. He'll get the saving grace kill here for Team Rival, but Shinto pulls another rabbit out of the hat and keeps Sanguine in the game. Fine, okay, he might eventually fall down here, but you gotta look at Shinto, maybe play of the game.
Yeah, I think if I'm Sanguine, after this game, I'm calling him Cake Man, and I'm getting Shinto whatever food he wants for a week now. Whether or not you win, Shinto is doing everything in his power to stop Rival from having the control. That should have been a game-ending play. We should, like you said, be talking about Game 3 picks and bans already. This should be the post-game discussion, and instead, Sanguine stay in it. And that, I'm getting to the point where I just don't know if I can ever count them out. I mean, the gold lead still immensely in favor of Rival. The control and level lead still immensely in their on the side of Rival. But this Primal Fury might go down for Sanguine. That's the first step in terms of getting things back there. And of course, if you get a fadeaway double kill as Shinto, that's, you know, steps 1, 2, 3. Like any check mark you need, it's the play that is keeping Sanguine alive.
Now the gap has widened in the player damage conversation. Remember, I'm saying there's 3,000 separating Shinto from Twig a few moments ago. Return to that conversation after this fight. Might start to see some differences there. Rong Yu locked down. Sanford Soccer trying to set up the kill. Kraken maybe just a touch wide there. Rong Yu able to get out alive here, but can't say the same for Yarkor. Captain Twig will take him down. Sanguine full on retreat, but Shinto yet again will turn around to kill in one of these fights. Sanford Soccer still looking for the re-engagement. Panatom will leap over the wall. This could be the fight that Rival were looking for. Can you get rid of the Merlin? Fino K says yes. Netrioid, he has to burn the Aegis back beneath the tier 2 tower. Captain Twig with a couple 8-1 and 8 on this Poseidon. And this might be the map for the take.
I think credit where credit's due. Obviously, Captain Twig is having an insane performance, and the damage numbers he's outputting are exactly what the teams need. But PBM sets up a good Rivers Rebuke that separates the fight from Sanguine. They just couldn't fight as the group they need, and now they're looking at their Titan potentially getting killed off.
4 versus 2 here. Sanguine back beneath the Titan they go. 4 members of Rival barreling in. I think they might just have the damage here. Gormizer, Panatom tries to go back through. He's going to get taken down. Half HP left on the Titan. Panatom actually leaps out, stays alive. Rivers Rebuke from PBM. The Titan damage, maybe not exactly what they expected, but it's a massive ult from PBM. Titan's going to go down, and Rival have evened up the set.
Their Titan is just a smidge tankier. If they had just one tower up even, then maybe we're looking at a conversation where Sanguine actually make a defense there. A lot of low health bars at the end for Rival, but all was missed. That Poseidon speaks wonders. Panatom maybe on the other side also kind of speaks wonders, but not the way you really want it to. The Serket didn't really show up. The Poseidon showed up to every single party, whether he was invited or not, and Rival, they just controlled the flow of the game perfectly.
And it's so weird, though, that I agree. Rival can complete the flow of the game, really in control of it is the wording you use. It's that Fire Giant steal away from Sanguine that keeps him into it. And what's a guy got to do to get Shinto off of this Merlin? Maybe Finch on the desk has a better answer.
I don't know how to give you any better evidence than what we just got through watching between games 1 and 2 there, Dulcin. Shinto clearly comfortable on this Merlin. But for 2 games in a row now, Rival have dominated the first half of the game pretty cleanly, and yet kind of stumbled a bit in that late game there, Mifflin. What are you seeing from Sanguine that has done such a good job stalling these games out, buying time to get back in and giving them a chance to win any match, it seems?
It's truly, it comes down to heroic individual play. Netroid lands some of the most insane ricochets I've ever seen in my entire life. Shinto hits insane amounts of damage and steals objectives consistently. You know, they asked, how are you going to shut down the Merlin on Shinto? The only thing that stops Shinto's Merlin is the bans. Don't let this man have it. He's absolutely insane. Sanguine do a fantastic job fighting into a deficit the entire time. It's just that maybe they're a little bit too comfortable fighting into these deficits. They keep taking engagements that they aren't favored to win, and they're completely reliant on those heroic plays. Power to them, it comes through a couple times this game, but you can't rely on that consistently. You have to back up and look for your farm elsewhere. Maybe try not to lose out in the early game quite as much to Rival, but that's a hard ask.
That's such a nice shot from Netroid there. And that wasn't even the nicest ricochet he hit that game, I'd argue, just to give you an idea of what kind of game he had. But I don't want to sing Sanguine's praises too much here because they did give up a 10,000 gold lead or so throughout the early game. Now nearly twice in a row. That first game was out of control for them too. You're 100% right there, Mifflin. I think that Sanguine are making a lot of really nice plays, but there's only so much you can laud their comeback potential before you have to start critiquing their fall behind potential, right? In this early game, Sanguine are not able to deal with either the pressure in the long lane from game 1 or the 3v3 pressure from Rival in game 2.
Twig just plays out of his mind the entirety of this game too. I mean, he establishes the first blood. He continues just fighting in constantly. And if you look at his positioning, he takes pseudo-aggressive. He's playing close enough to Sanguine that it kind of baits them into moving up, and then immediately he leverages the huge amount of movement speed that Poseidon has to back up and force Sanguine to dive even deeper. His slash line, almost perfect, just doesn't fall nearly enough for Sanguine to find any sort of foothold in the game. Rival is playing incredibly strong in the early game, and that's exactly what you expect from Rival. They're the early game aficionados, if you would. And Sanguine's early game, it's a bad matchup. That's where they've generally found they're lacking. So maybe Sanguine have to shift their focus just a little bit, draft a comp that you know can win in the dual lane, draft some pressure, find the Uller on a Netrioid or something like that, and then just rely on them to soak up some of the aggression from Rival and allow the rest of the team to farm out to late.
It's a fair point. Pandacot's gotten to play Uller basically in every game here so far, so that's just free pressure they haven't even had to work for in all these games, at least over there in the long lane up against that He matchup. So a lot for Sanguine to consider coming into this match. And for what it's worth, I think there's been a couple of odd mistakes from Team Rival. Remember that death Bino K took towards the end of that last game, backing in the middle of the wave and just gets caught out. Rival have played really, really well here, but there's also been a couple times where I think they've let the game get a bit away from them.
That lazy back, man, I mean, there's no excuse for that one. He's just backing inside what was the tier 1 tower when he knows the entirety of Sanguine's looking for him. Just a little bit cocky, I'd say, from Rival. But when you're establishing these leads as consistently as they are, how can it not go to your head? 2 games in a row, they get 10, 15,000 gold in the lead pre-20 minutes. That's absolutely insane, and it still boggles the mind that they weren't able to close out game 1. And that, I think that really can be attributed to Sanguine's ability to play from behind, play as a group, and continue fighting in a poor odds.
Rival's got to feel like they've won 2 games at this point, right? In every place except for the win column here. So now they've got to gear up and win a 3rd one. So let's take a look at these picks and bans a bit more here, Mifflin. So far, things are pretty standard. Thor, King Arthur banned away, the Sobek, and the Camazotz. But this might mean that the Merlin could potentially make it through. Phantom get some comfortable picks on this one as well. I don't know if Rival have quite done enough to at least force Sanguine to at least play something different and not stall out these late games.
I would be surprised if we don't see a Merlin pick here. I mean, he's looked so absolutely comfortable on it the entirety of the set. There's no reason to give it up. You're not sacrificing too much safety. Flicker is going to be a fantastic tool to disengage. And when you're playing hot, keep playing hot. Keep him on that Merlin. Instead, it's going to be the Emoja coming out. That's interesting. Maybe they're really concerned about PBM. He's been playing well on it, but I don't think PBM is really the determining factor in these games.
Yeah, but sometimes that stuff behind the scenes can be a bit hard to track. I mean, these Riptides from the Emoja have been really strong for PBM. He's been positioning those very well alongside great positioning on those Rivers Rebukes, as you mentioned earlier. So there has certainly been good value, but potentially giving away Shinto's Merlin after the way that he's played is scary, but it looks like they might not get punished. The Uller already locked in. Now the Hercules hover for Polar Bear Mike. They may have accidentally moved out of the frying pan and into the fire in terms of PBM's playstyle here.
Oh, no, it actually got locked in. That's rough. You're already struggling against Uller in the long lane, who's almost single-handedly establishing dominance. Now what are you going to do when PBM, one of the greatest Hercules players to ever grace the earth, is going to be walking at you? I don't know what Sanguine's plan is here. Shinto getting Merlin, that's a good counter, I guess. But at the same time, you're giving rivals so many things that they're comfortable with. If anything, Yamoji is a fallback pick for PBM. Give him this Hercules, he's going to be able to establish dominance in the early. His 3v3 that was so oppressive last game is only going to be harder to fight into. Huge question marks from you here.
Well, I've got to take Mifflin. Let me know if I'm out of pocket. You like the young people language I'm trying to use there. I feel as though they can't possibly lose the early game any more than they already are, right? I mean, they're basically ceding over a 10k gold lead to Rival at every game this so far, so why not maybe sort of double down on their ability to fight in those late game matches? And I'm being a bit glib here, but I think there might be something to taking this Yamoja away, one of their better tools in these late game fights, and adding it on the side of Sanguine.
I see what you're saying, and I can agree with it to an extent. Right now, Sanguine's draft is lacking a bit on engage, kind of how Rival had it in Game 1. So I expect we'll see something like a Susanoo out of the jungle, or something that can engage like a Warrior. We've been seeing a lot of Vamana, we've been seeing Sun Wukong, and I think that would fit Sanguine's playstyle, especially considering back in Game 2, Panatom got effectively bullied out of the game. He was a non-factor for the first 20 minutes, just struggling to find his farm. If he plays in a Warrior, if he falls behind, it won't be nearly as big of a deal, and if he wants to continue getting aggressive in the early, it should mesh incredibly well with it.
Well, Rival ban away the Nanja and the Amaterasu, so that means Nike, Vamana. There's options in the jungle if you want to play Warrior. I keep saying it, but Umbot's certainly a fine option too if you want to take the Monkey into the jungle. I don't know that Panatom's going to be too struggling for a confident pick that he could take into that role. Rival, though, still waiting on their jungler as well, as the Awelish gets banned out, but they'll wait a bit longer. The Discordia picked up for Captain Twig in the middle lane, and we've still yet to see what they're going to take into Sam for Soccer Sands.
I like the Discordia pickup here. It's got Chain CC to follow up on Hercules' pool combo. It's got so much setup potential inside of this Jingshen. It's lockdown. It's a huge teamfight AoE ability. It brings a lot of what Rivals comp was lacking before. and leaving your jungle up to last pick, especially when you already have Hercules, is fine. He's going to be able to fill just about any role you want. You want damage? Hercules. You want some CC? Yeah, Hercules. Let Sanguine take whatever they want, and then you can try and counterpick with your last pick.
Looks like it's going to be Vamana solo, and then that Susano. Still feels a bit control light to me, Mifflin, for what Sanguine have, even though I think Susano does taper over that a little bit. Do you think that this team might have some problems in the later stages of this match?
I have to agree completely. Vamana has some degree of backline disruption, and he's been able to run down the enemy team, but if a shell comes out, a lot of that's going to be mitigated. His damage output should be a lot lower if we are assuming he's going to the solo lane, so he's not going to be able to dive quite as easily onto this Discordia on his own, and now he's got an execute to contend with. That's one of the few ways you can shut down the big baby. Find a little bit of burst, Thanatos has hovering death, just put him in the ground from there. Susano really is the only standard engage on Sanguine's comp, and is it really enough, especially considering the spearhead of a front line that Rival's bringing? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of pick potential, I would say, on this Rival draft, so this could be scary. Either way, we'll have our resolution here. Game number 3 with Dulcin and Gormizer coming at you.
It's almost a shame, Gore, that this one has to end here, but it sure does, and there are some similarities to draw from Game 2 here as well, but maybe the big difference maker, especially if we start to look towards this early game, Gore, is PBM not on Yamoja for the first time here in the set. Instead, it's going to be the Hercules, certainly not a god in that support role that shies away from early game control.
Yeah, if Panda Cat was enough to cause you trouble as Sanguine earlier on, I've got some bad news for you right now. This Hercules is going to make it so that this tower line is your best friend. You don't want to leave it because it might just mean a death. And honestly, even standing too close to it might still mean a death. Rival took the early game control that they've had the last 2 games, and they just hard curved into it. They grabbed the Hercules, they grabbed the Thanatos, and they say, all right, if we're just going to have to build a lead up in the first 15 minutes to make you to shut you down as Sanguine, then we're going to build up such a massive lead that even a small mistake won't be able to trade this away, and that's what they're going for.
Well, if there's no supports on your screen, it's because they're dueling each other, but not on the purple buff. It's PBM just zoning Wrong You away. A small kind of bit of nuance to this is that Wrong You does have the hog, but actually won't be in range to use it, so it does take a little bit longer, but PBM and Panda Cat are going to move over and take away the first purple buff of the game on Sanguine's side of the map. Sanford Soccer will rotate through and lock down the red buff as well. Panda Cat gets aggressive, will leap forward. Different gods, but not so different on the execution here. Gormizer Rival stripping away the jungle one more time from Sanguine.
A very similar fashion to what started last game, and Sanguine, if you remember correctly, ended up suffering because Panatom, even though I think Susano is maybe going to keep up a little bit better than that Cirquette, gave up the early experience gain that he could get in order to try and find ganks like that. And while it's great, you are able to force Captain Twig to be a little more uncomfortable in that lane. You don't find the kill, you don't find the beads, you don't get anything you need out of that gank as largely as you could. And so now you're in that conversation of farm, and you're starting to fall behind.
Oh my goodness, you get caught once, and you've got death awaiting on the other side. Wrong You, he gets pile drove a single time by PBM, and that's the combination power. An Ular Axe immediately on the back end of a support engage will result in first blood. Not an engage, but a threat of engagement in the middle lane. That's enough to make Twig pop the beads early.
That tier 1 tower line, it's your best friend over here in duo. I'm scared of Panda Cat, I'm scared of PBM. I don't think they've given any reason for you to think otherwise, except maybe that PBM is willing to take a kind of meaty tower shot in order to look for a little more aggression. That makes it all the more scarier. You have stuns on your side, you can control the flow that way, but the knock-up driving strike combination that PBM brings, along with Panda Cat then looking for an axe in his damage dump, it's just going to be free kills. It's like printing money for yourself.
And Team Rival have been printing that money, but have only been able to capitalize once. Sanford Soccer over in the solo lane, pulled back by Panatom here. Yarkor awaits on the other side, and that's a kill now pulled back from Sanguine. It's the rare look at a duo lane here on the short side of the map, but it's Sanguine that find the rotation and find the kill.
And that's what I want to see more out of Panatom. If you get Yarkor ahead, then maybe this big baby is going to have a bigger impact. But also, this Susano has been known to carry games from what we've seen the last few weeks. It can make a huge impact. And Panatom being comfortable is a hallmark of Sanguine's success. Unfortunately, it looks like he just barely had enough mana to get out of that one. Low health, low mana. He's alive, and so I think he'll walk away resting on those laurels.
Alive, but barely here. That's a 1-level lead now for Yarkor in that solo lane. Now Sanford Soccer back on, I would say, a more Sanford Soccer-esque pick in this Thanatos, and one topic that repeatedly was washed away by fighting there in Game 2 was Sam taking a different look at maybe the Erlang Shen. Now back on something like this Thanatos. Panatom as well. You could have this conversation, I think, about both junglers. You mentioned carry potential on Susano. Absolutely agree. Panatom, some of the highest kills in the league.
Yeah.
Sanford Soccer, right in that same conversation as well.
And realistically, a lot of the success we've seen for Sanguine, it's not just Shinto. I mean, after the last couple of games, Shinto's a huge role in this. Netroid has been able to come in and play a huge role in some past wins. But, I mean, there were games where it was like, hey, is Panatom on Thor? Cool, Sanguine win. Like, it was just decided because of the performance he can have on those comfort picks. And so getting him onto something, again, that's familiar, that's comfortable over there for Sanguine, opens up that late game conversation again. And if Rival can't, force this early game lead to be so massive that Sanguine don't even exist in this game, then late game they could still make a comeback.
Well, there's a great kind of overhead look at what an Ullr in the early game brings. It's one axe connecting, and immediately a touch over half of Netroid's health is gone. Now factor PBM into that equation, and that's where Wrong You dying to first blood ends up springing from. Worth mentioning, and the Des did bring it up, Sanguine, it's interesting that even in the Rival win, it seems like there's still this talk about Sanguine because they've been able to pull back these big leads. It seems like they've been, okay, giving away some of that. Obviously, you don't enjoy it, and Panatom won't enjoy being dove on by Sanford Soccer. But we haven't quite seen Sanguine be the ones to jump out to that early aggressive start and pull a gold lead really in their favor.
No, and honestly, that kind of tracks with what we saw even week 1 when they played against Obey. I mean, the first 20 minutes was not the cleanest from Sanguine, and then the last 10 were. That's kind of what they bring.
That's all you need.
And it's a lot of predictions, moments like that where Yarkor just says, cool, if I ult here, once I see him winding up, I'm golden. I don't have to worry about the CC. I don't have to worry about the damage. That translating into team fights later and working as a group is what Sanguine have had. Last game, PBM disrupted that with his Yamoja. The River's Rebuke separated them. Now they don't have those walls, and while there's disruption from a Hercules, I think Sanguine have a much better chance at some late-game fights as long as they can hold on till then.
Once Panatom hovering over here towards the short lane, a moment ago, PandaCat had to burn those beads, so Netroid even enough in that lane that once PBM starts to rotate away, you do have to be somewhat worried for PandaCat, although maybe not. The dual potential for an Ullr is always going to be there. But I don't know, it hasn't been quite the same. We've seen the purple buff taken away, an early red buff as well. Haven't seen quite the same chokehold from Rival. Granted, it's only 7 minutes in, but around this time in game number 2, we're talking about how Sanguine haven't gotten a single buff on the left side of the map.
And honestly, I'm looking at the draft for Rival, and I feel like that conversation should be even worse in favor of Rival, right? I mean, it should be, not only have Sanguine not gotten a buff on this side of the map, but they're down 4 or 5 kills at this point of the game. And Thanatos, normally is that kind of early aggression. I think maybe that early kill onto Sam maybe made him not necessarily shy, but fade away from ganking lanes like we see Panatom do.
Panatom pulls back in, fine, okay, dashes, both he used, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, will toss one back, Panatom, he's aggroed the tower here, and fine, okay, will turn around the gank to the tune of a kill for himself. There's a kill over in the solo lane for Team Rival. That opens up the door maybe for this Gold Fury to be pulled up. Panatom is, well, dead, and River's Rebuke locked up. Sanguine, they take away the Gold Fury? How? In what world are they able to get the kills as well? Sanford Soccer goes down. Gore, I don't know how they do it, but Sanguine take the Fury away.
Yeah, no, I'm excited and hopeful that we have a replay for that one because I was looking at it. I mean, that's one of the only things that came through. The Suns weren't on the Gold Fury pit, if I remember correctly, so I'll have to watch that one back. I mean, that's just good from Sanguine. I mean, again, if you're talking about slowing down Rival this early on, whew, yeah, you have a failed gank over there in the solo lane, but you stopped that Gold Fury as fast as you could, and not only being able to take it away, you have a little bit of gold lead in your favor now. And yeah, it's not massive, it's nothing to write home about, but again, PBM Sam on early aggression gods rival the way they played the last 2 games. We should be looking at a 2,000 gold lead, if not higher, for rival right now. And Sanguine are playing this game almost exactly the way they need to in order to make sure that they can play it, install it to that 25-minute mark, and fight against what rival have drafted.
It's those little things you sometimes just can't plan on. We go into a game analyzing Sanguine and rival. I mean, it's hard to root any serious analysis in, well, they steal a lot of Furies and objectives away. Maybe you can, but that's what's happening here for Sanguine. Think back. They've stolen away a Gold Fury, or a Fire Giant, rather. That one doesn't necessarily turn around the game entirely, slows things down, but big ricochets. It's these small percentage plays, I call them maybe, that are kind of keeping this game within Sanguine's reach, and it has evened this one up absolutely. There's no gold lead here because the Fury is taken away. Rival were ahead just a few moments before that. We're able to get a kill on Sam as well. So you look at a kind of similarity to draw. It's the junglers here in this early game have had a tough time not dying outright.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, I mean, Panatom's focus on this right-hand side of the map hasn't necessarily yielded too much, and, well, Sam just hasn't yielded anything anywhere outside of those early buff steals. Might be able to find something here.
No Colossal Fury for Yarkor. Hovering Death is there for Sanford Soccer, but Shinto, no jungler, has rotated over from the middle lane. I agree, that's wow. I mean, it's a level 10 Yarkor up against level 8 there for Sanford Soccer, but I'm not sure Sam was expecting that large damage turnaround.
Yeah, I'm not giving up that fight if I'm Sam until that rotation comes through, and now he's giving it up for good, at least for the next 20 seconds.
Panatom returns to the solo lane, and Typhoon will put down Sam for the 3rd time this game. All 3 of Sanguine's kills have been on Sam for Soccer. Driving strike over onto Shinto, who will flick her way and use the beads as well. PBM drops the boulder, but won't get a kill. Yarkor is now here from the solo lane. Rongyu will lock him down. PBM surely dies off here. The 2nd kill of the game for Sanguine. Small advantages becoming a little bit bigger as Team Rival continue to lose bodies all over the map.
So Sanguine last game, it kind of felt like they were in a 3, maybe 3.5 v5 because, well, Panatom and Rongyu didn't really exist for a lot of the game. And even when they did, their, marker on it wasn't anywhere near as strong as what we expect out of them. This time around, well, you get exactly what you want. Yeah, it's 1-2-1 and 0-1-2. The slash lines aren't pretty, but the impact is there. The zone, the control, the setup, they've got it all going for them right now. And yeah, it's only 1 kill lead, but again, in a game that should be all rivals at least for 15 minutes, I'm excited to see what Panatom and Sanguine can do in this, because this is the first time that they've really felt like they've been in control of the game.
And through that, it's kind of the first time where we maybe need to look at Rival and see where some of the potential is rooted. Obviously, FineOK has got a kill on his side. No deaths, no assists for him just yet. PandaCat has been pivotal on this Uller, especially once rotating out of that long lane to some of these mid-game fights. Maybe that is where Rival, despite, they're not so far behind that it's a serious conversation that needs to be had, but maybe it's PandaCat that kind of brings Rival back in to some semblance of equality in this mid-game.
Well, he's definitely been, I want to say, one of the hardest anchors that Rival have had, although PBM gets bullied this hard consistently enough, he could start stripping away maybe some of the safety net PandaCat has around him. I mean, in Game 1, PandaCat was a huge reason Rival were in control, and he's still undying as of right now, but we'll have to see how long that lasts. The pressure hasn't been around him just yet, and I mean, if PBM gets pressured out, if Sam for Soccer keeps, getting killed off, then that pressure then turns to where's Twig, where's PandaCat, the easier targets to kill off.
Well, it's Fury now respawning, and Sanguine, they liked themselves a nice objective steal, but would like to just get it done the old-fashioned way, most likely. And Rival, again, I don't think that they're going to be much put off by the state of the game just yet. It's going to be Yarkor on the rotations from the solo lane that are going to be a big difference maker. No teleport, obviously, for Yarkor is going to pick the blink and the thorns there. So maybe a big difference maker here is if Rival are realizing that Yarkor isn't in the spot to TP into these fights, maybe you can find some engagements without the 2-0-1 on your side of the map.
Yeah, but he does have, I guess, a different set of engage. He might not be able to teleport over, so he won't be able to keep up in that pace, but as of right now, FineOK doesn't have his teleport either. Blink into the backline,
Right.
a dash to get out, or vice versa, depending on how you want to run it. One of the things that Yarkor needs to do is be the disruption. They don't necessarily have a lot. Panatom can get back there, but if Yarkor can zone out Twig or PandaCat or Sam, that makes it a lot easier to deal with PBM and the other carries that happen to be with him. His goal is separate the fight, and with the Thorns as well, he can take a little bit of damage while doing so. It is that execute that Mifflin highlighted on the desk, though, that is still the ever-present threat to a late-game Vamana. So Yarkor is going to have to watch his health and watch his itemization a lot to make sure that that doesn't consistently shut him down.
A bit of a different look for FineOK. Speaking of relics, it's going to be Horrific Emblem and Blink, and then the Relic Dagger, first completed item overall there for Fino. So maybe you can kind of see the threat of what he's looking for as far as engaging quickly and engaging often.
It's actually interesting to see the Relic Dagger, like you said, making the engage come through, but right now it's Yarkor who's trying to run the show.
Yarkor's just going to walk down Captain Twig underneath the Tier 1 tower, has to use the Colossal Fury. PBM will driving strike away. Yarkor will pay the ultimate price for his Tier 1 tower die, but Shinto starting to come online here as well. Wrong you, River's Rebuke to disengage any follow-up from this fight. Sam for Soccer popped the Hovering Death, but it was only back over to his speed buff as pinged out by Sanguine here. FineOK in range. We'll look to maybe pull his best Sanguine, but thinks better of it. Oni Fury taken down, burned away. Sanguine pull a couple of kills, and an Oni Fury on the back end of a good fight.
I got to make sure I'm going to hit the right note here, but that's worth every single penny, dude. I mean, you get 2 clean kills.
That's the right note.
Maybe you lose Yarkor in the process, but then you get the Oni Fury thereafter. You're going to get lane pressured, which you already have over there and left, so even more mounting up against PandaCat. And now you can turn your eyes towards the real prize, the Pyromancer, a Fire Giant, the team fights. That'll start happening here on right. Sanguine are controlling the game, and we saw exactly what was kind of foretold by the Prophet Mifflin on the desk, right? Yarkor, his job, get into the backline, disrupt him, but he will be, in a position to get killed off. And if it's going to pull 3 to 4 pairs of eyes to him, I think he's going to take it almost every single time. His slash line is worth going negative if it means the rest of his team can find a clean pick onto 1 or 2 other members of Rival.
And it's Captain Twig that learns that the hard way here, and sometimes that's just your role in these games. Just your job is to pull as many members of the enemy team looking towards you as you can. Panatom will pull himself back over to the solo lane, but won't find much for it. Some small poking back and forth over onto PBM here, who will have to use the driving strike to get away. Pulled back in by Wrong You. Brilliant setup there, PBM.
Bye-bye.
Using the River's Rebuke, and Shinto will complete the kill. Merwin starting to heat up here. Nitroid really the only one on the map in a bit of an uncomfortable position as Sanguine move their way to the Pyromancer.
And yeah, Netrioid is perfectly happy to be over there as well, because look at all the pressure. I mean, FineOK is so close to dead. They get the Pyromancer as well. A little risky coming down from FineOK, almost able to maybe pick that up for himself. But Netrioid will take that pressure any time of day. Sam for Soccer's over there. They know they have the control. They might even still be able to get this kill.
Now, Panatom, he's feeling confident. Why wouldn't you? FineOK is low, but Sam for Soccer, he's got Panatom a little bit too far forward. Down comes the Hovering Death. And Panatom, you pay for confidence with your life here. 3rd death of the game for the Sanguine jungler. It looks for a moment like Fino might go down, but Sam's in the right place at the right time.
Sam gave me a little bit of a jump scare there. I was not expecting to see Thanatos just appear, but I mean, he was laying in wait. He knew what he wanted, and I think Panatom just wasn't paying enough attention to his mana bar there. Otherwise, that fight is all in his favor, but if he had one more ability, yeah, that's a kill. Didn't have it, didn't have any escape, so left himself kind of vulnerable. Not the end of the world for Sanguine, but you can't afford many of those when you've cultivated this small of a lead so far. About 2,000 gold. It's very easy to watch that wash away with your mistakes. And I mean, I think the XP chart shows it better than anything, how much it's been zigzagging between the 2 teams. Any kills like that, especially onto someone like Panatom, is what can help keep Sam in this game with a level lead, can help make that execute machine that is late game Thanatos an ever-present threat even for the bursty Susano.
It's the first time in this set now that we've seen Sanguine with a real measurable gold lead about 18 minutes in. This time in Game 1, Rival were pushing towards that 10K mark. So how can Sanguine play around it is the next big question. A Tier 1 tower has been traded out on either side of the map, so both teams down to 5. Hasn't been without pressure, of course, in the long lane. I suppose that's sort of what you're sacrificing here. If you're Sanguine, you realize that if the rest of our team is going to start to rotate out, Panda Cat still has that dual potential over Netrioid, and maybe a Tier 1 tower in the long lane is an okay sacrifice.
Oh, you are more than fine, yeah. Honestly, any Tier 1. Like, you don't care if those go down. It does cede a little bit of map control, but on a part of the map that you don't necessarily need the pressure right now. Primal Fury will be coming up, so maybe you want a little bit there. But this looks like a collapse in from Sanguine, not just for the Fury, but maybe for PBM.
Ooh. PBM has to blink away here. Panatom on the chase. You're on the wrong side of the map, my man. PBM will knock back over onto Netrioid, and that's a dead Hercules. Panatom will notch his second kill of the game, 8th total for Sanguine. And I love PBM, and he's phenomenal support player. But that's now the second or third time, I think, in this set that we've seen him just a touch overextended.
I mean, 0-4-2. I don't want to talk bad against PBM either. It's just the slash line speaking for itself. And is that this Hercules hasn't necessarily done what you expect out of it when you see it come through. I mean, Mifflin even said it's one of the best ones that we've had. You can kind of grace us in the Pro League, period. And it's just not hitting the marks that you set up for it. And as of right now, that's good news for Sanguine fans out there because it's giving them a lot of control. If you get a pick on PBM, you take care of that front line. Unless FineOK is immediately there to step up to the mantle, that's a lot of pressure that Sanguine can then turn around on the map, which is opening up things like this Fury.
Panda Cat, though, is going to try to engage over onto Panatom's side. Steps the damage ringing down from Panda. Netrioid will leap back through. Sunbreaker down, but it's only onto FineOK. That's a double root from Fino as he rotates in. Panda Cat grabs the kill over onto Netrioid, and Rival are able to pull one back. Wrongview still taken low here. Rivers Rebuke as he leaps away, but Sam for Soccer, he's here to play as well, and he'll get the kill over onto Wrongview. Can Shinto pull off a miracle turnaround? Not this time. And Team Rival scrape back a couple of kills.
Yarkor and Shinto still in the area, though. We've been talking about Sanguine's love for steals, and well, all of the equations add up to that still being possible. Yarkor's going for it.
The Rival are going to pull off the Fury and identify Yarkor first and foremost overall. Shinto moves back in, gets the kill on a Captain Twig, Aegis, but that opens up enough time for Panatom to rejoin the fight.
Way.
Down goes one member of Rival. Looks like things could have been a lot worse there just for a second, but Panatom will get stunned down. It's the full deicide 20 minutes in, and Rival turn their eyes towards the Fury.
All right, that time Sanguine do just straight up get too big for their britches. They think they have way more going on than they did. Maybe it's the disruption of the fight. I think Panatom does a great job breaking his ankles the first time around to dodge what Panda Cat's throwing at him, but doesn't necessarily sustain that through for all of that. Has to back, it's a 4v5, and that's when Rival get aggressive. Good ult from Sam and good lockdown from the rest of the team to make sure, like, Wrongview couldn't be a part of that fight. They just dissected Sanguine. They separated the fight even though they don't have the ults that separate the fight the way they do in Game 1 and 2. And they stripped that lead almost completely away, or I guess technically away from Sanguine, because now it's about 500 in favor of Rival. Nothing to write home about at the end of the day, but considering how things have been going, that huge dip in their favor is big news for them, especially 22 minutes into the game.
And now you got to give props to PBM. We've talked about maybe a missed play, and now a good play. 0-4-2 becomes 0-4-7, affecting all 5 of the kills there in the deicide for Team Rival. Can never count this guy out of your games. We'll pull back level-wise with Wrongview here as well, and maybe that's giving Rival some confidence to start up this Pyromancer. In range is Wrongview. Won't be able to steal that one away. I was for sure that was the cool guys don't look at explosions moment from Wrongview as he turns around and walks away from it and steals it. But it's going to be Rival who lock it down.
Slides on his sunglasses, just hops into a convertible and drives away, happy knowing that he got that pyro. But no, I think this is kind of going back to that conversation you mentioned earlier for Sanguine, where, you know what, they were always in that conversation of being able to steal away an objective. That was one of the biggest things that I guess they've had going for them, at least going into this game. Now it's starting to disappear. They did steal one earlier, but it's not been consistent enough, and it never should be anything that you bank on happening. And so I think them losing control is a big deal for Rival because they can maybe start up a Fire Giant and feel pretty confident in it.
Oh, Mike is feeling confident now. He'll blink through, look for the knockup, won't find it. Instead, FineOK spins back around on Rongyu, who will toss up the River's Rebuke. Sam will use the execute down onto the Sanguine support, but Shinto has rejoined the fight. Massive knockup over onto FineOK. Apple connecting down onto Yarkor. PBM tosses down the boulder, but a double kill from Shinto on the rotation. Will pull back in, wanted to triple kill for the Merlin. The chase is on. Yarkor is here. FineOK, he's taken down low. He won't survive. Yarkor gets the kill, and it's only PBM that survives.
You know, between the games, Cake Man tagged me on Twitter and said, don't feed his ego, talking about Shinto, and I'm not trying to. I can't not talk about him. He just gets a triple kill. Again, when it comes to a time that you need your mid laner to make a huge play, or you just need someone to make a huge play, the one who steps up to bat is Shinto. The one who's knocking it out of the park is Shinto. And at 6-1-2, this Merlin has been such a large comfort pick for them. Well, it's enough to give Sanguine the confidence to start this up, but there is a PBM lurking in the waters.
PBM pull his best Sanguine and take this one away. Yarkor will go into Colossal Fury. PBM just a touch late on the attempted steal. Likely means a lockdown Mike. Netrioid will get the kill, so it's full 5 members for Sanguine with the Fire Giant buff. 24 minutes in. Gold lead now extending about 4,000. Probably the biggest swing we've seen so far here in this game, 24 minutes in.
Yeah, that's a big amount of control, and Dave, that's not even all the gold that's on the map. There's still 4 towers that are standing for Rival here, and that's going to be a nice pretty penny in Sanguine's pocket once they grab that. So not only a comfortable lead here, but getting into the realm of finishing off everybody's items, potentially even being able to buy some power pots going into those later fights, or finish off your relics, considering I see quite a few of them not quite fully bought up there. So Sanguine, they have the ball. It's in their court. The question is where they want to put that pressure. A lot of the control they have that has been stripped away has been awkward fights that are separated. Right now, it is their perfect game, right? You're 25 minutes in, you've got Fire Giant. The whole point of sieging is grouping up as a team and taking 5v5 fights. All 3 of those things just described a perfect Sanguine scenario to me.
There hasn't been, that Rival haven't been looking for or even finding the fights. It just seems like the bigger, more impactful fights have been for Sanguine. I mean, I say that on the back of a Deicide 20 minutes in for Rival, but this one is around the Fire Giant, so it carries a little bit of extra weight now maybe for Sanguine. You bring up gold, still left on the map, no more tier 2 towers in the short lane, now just one over here in long, one over here in mid. Panatom and Yarkor are going to delete this tower here, but maybe Rival, sensing a numbers advantage for themselves, they're going to move in. They have delayed this tier 2 tower taking down, but one final shot will get it done.
I would say watch Panatom. And a lot of these engagements that could potentially turn into a huge skirmish, watch where he stands and where he's going to get aggressive, because he has the one-stop shop to get into the backline to kill off Twig or Panda Cat. A lot of disruption in the backline. Him and Yarkor are the ones that open that door and cause a lot of trouble for Rival's control. Meanwhile, Rongyu is maybe finding out what happens when those two go unchecked. The amount of damage they throw out is too much for one Yamoja.
There was some damage, plenty returned there from Panda Cat. That is a 4-1-5 Uller with the fully stacked Transcendence. Asi, Executioner, Keen Size, whatever you want. He's going to be hurting plenty. Sanford Soccer has some good damage on his side as well. A Witchblade picked up here for FineOK, so depending on who he's fighting around, maybe won't be swinging not quite as hard, but not quite as quickly. Sang, we're going to move themselves over to this Primal Fury. FineOK close by. Sanford Soccer over in the middle lane. Crits ringing true from Netrioid. Rage and Wind Fury there for him. Rival take it away. We've seen Fury steals on either side. Blink back through from Panatom now. He's got 3 members of Rival locked into that Typhoon. And Yarkor will finish off some of the damage. FineOK, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel will set up a kill, but who else but Shinto to get rid of FineOK there. 55 seconds on 2 members of Rival, but they are able to get Panatom in the meantime.
They've got 40 seconds left on this Fire Giant, and they want to use it. You might lose the Fury, but you can still get the gold in your favor. And that's what they're going to do. 2-for-1 trade. Panatom's the one that makes the huge splash into the backline. He's 3-5-9, but that 9 is the important part. Over half the kills they've had, he's been able to assist on, and they're looking to keep going. PBM might be in danger.
Biggest moment of the set so far here for Rival, and maybe for Sanguine as well. Some good shielding from Wrong. Throws down the shell, and it's going to be to the tune of a left side Phoenix. So now that part of the base is cracked open. And you look now about a minute down the road, Gormizer, this long lane Phoenix being taken down, ever so important for the next FG.
I mean, it's going to, again, create a huge distraction over here. Fire minions pouring on the left-hand side means someone has to be over there defending that Phoenix and defending the Titan. And that means you ideally get that 4v5 around the Fire Giant in about 40 seconds when it respawns, like you said. So there is that conversation around what control can Sanguine take out of this one. And who does Rival leave behind? I mean, Twig's probably going to be the one best equipped to melt all of them that you could afford to toss out of there. Maybe you sacrifice Panda Cat, but I don't know. You don't really want to put anybody in that lane. And yeah, like you say, there's no teleport in the game, period. So it's not going to be a solo laner either. It's a hard commit for Rival. They've pushed it up to about midway through the lane, and that gives them a little bit of wiggle room, but not enough to make this a confident decision.
Yeah, well, the answer will soon be upon us. Right now it's Sam that's rotating over. Fire Giant has spawned back in, but now you maybe see that moment of hesitation. Was walking over towards the long lane, now looking to rejoin his team over in the Fire Giant pit. Pyromancer started up now by Sanguine. Rival will take it away. What do we got to see for an objectives just to get secured here? Fido takes away the Pyromancer. It's peanuts maybe in the grand scheme of things as the Fire Giant still left standing.
I got to say it yesterday, but I think I can say it again today. Zone is your best friend. It's a nice four-letter word, but it means a lot when it comes to these objectives. Don't let them walk in there. Just try to create a little bit of a gap, much like you need to here for the FG.
Can FineOK do it again? It's instead Yarkor that has found his way back into the back line, but Captain Twig and Panda Cat will get rid of him. FineOK being plugged down now by Netrioid. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Fino for Yarkor. No solo laners left in this fight. Team Rival moving back in. FG, half HP. It's PBM closest by. No ultimate for Captain Twig here. Sanguine suddenly disengaged from the Fire Giant. Stunned down onto Mike. Boulder won't be enough, and Shinto, he gets the kill. Sanguine have pulled back too. They might hesitate for a moment longer, but now they'll turn back to the FG.
And normally it wouldn't make that big a difference, but that Typhoon at the tail end clips Captain Twig, forces him to fall back out of there. So now it's up to Panda Cat or Sam to try and come in and steal this, and Hovering Death is available. Sam could go up and maybe try to dunk down the stun, the damage follow-up. There is some steal potential, but you gotta hope they don't notice you in the process.
Panda catches the mark from Netrioid, and that's enough to force him out, but it's an Aegis and a Beads both used. Sanford Soccer is able to get the kill over on Wrongyu, but he pays with his life. It's a double kill for Panatom in the jungle. 3 members for Sanguine, all on the Fire Giant. Captain Twig, an apple in his back pocket, trying to make the difference here. He'll toss it out, connects over onto Netrioid, who will disengage from the FG. A lot of damage now missing, but Captain Twig pulled right back through. Fire Giant, it's stalled out for a moment as Panatom goes down. It's a big play from Captain Twig. Yarkor back from base. He pops the Colossal Fury. Captain Twig taken low. Shinto, he might go down as well. FineOK will finish off the kill. The mid laners are traded out.
I'm at a loss. I don't know where to start with that one. I don't know if I go back in if I'm Yarkor. I don't know if I stick on that Fire Giant as long as they do there for Sanguine. Hey, I have to say, I guess it comes out net neutral. They did get some fire minions pushing and causing a lot of pressure on the left-hand side, but that Phoenix is about to respawn. Nobody gets the FG, but it has entered the realm of enhanced in the terms of the game. So 32 minutes in, it's a bigger deal than ever now. Twig gets, I would argue, one of the most ideal mid scenarios. It's just you versus a bunch of squishies who don't know where you are and that you're trying to get in there and get those kills. So a little bit sloppy, I think, from Sanguine, but they pull it back, they maintain control, and they show that Rival's still in it, but they don't have the reins.
So Oni Fury started up and moved off of now by Sanguine. I mean, I guess in a game where we've seen so many steals, you can't blame either team for being slightly cautious. Yarkor now is going to move in. Rival, you call it a soft steal. Sanguine started up, never gets fully reset, and Sanguine playing a bit tentative there maybe as Rival will take the Fury away.
Yeah, it feels like the shot calling from Sanguine right now is just falling apart. I mean, Netrioid at one point is helping with the Fury, then at another point is doing the red buff, and you have to wonder where the priorities are. They get the buff, but it costs them the Oni Fury. If you're looking at a way to help defend your, well, now weakened Phoenix, if I'm Rival, I'm happy because now we get one big wave to just push back and clap back in all of this area, which amounts to pressure around the FG, amounts to a team fight that could potentially go our way. Sam has turned himself from a negative slash line to 7-6-2. It's not too much just yet, but he is a huge part of this. And again, that hovering death being available is either an execute or a stun that can land on to, Yarkor or Panatom. It could stop down Rongyu. Either way, it's going to be able to find a big splash for Sanguine. So they have to be careful where they engage, and they can't risk these kind of weird separated fights they've been taking.
PBM has had a good comeback in this game as well. We pointed out 0-4-2 has now gone 2-8, or 0-2-8, I suppose, over the last stretch of games. So decent play there from PBM to kind of come back from what was a rough early game. You kind of get the sense, though, Gormizer, and maybe it's an obvious statement that this next Fire Giant fight truly could just dictate the game.
Really does, unfortunately for Sanguine, I think, come down to this, or maybe unfortunately for Rival. Sanguine, since they've been in control for a lot of this game, one slip-up could be all it takes.
Yarkor, who's far forward here, has to pop the Thorns. Final K spins through, beads out by a couple members of Sanguine. He's gone so low in the meantime. Yarkor attempts to make his way into the back line, but is unable to finish off the kill. Sunbreaker from Netrioid will divide this fight. Panatom, he's on the chase. Rongyu, River's Rebuke won't connect, but the Typhoon does. Over onto Captain Twig, PBM pulled right back in, but he's going to dash himself right back out. Somehow no one's left alive. Sanguine a little bit worse for wear, but they've got a Yamoja on their side.
And they're going to be able to heal up just a little bit, just waiting for that Omi to come through. It looks like Rongyu's going to be able to back and regen. That opens up the conversation for Rival. Yeah, hey, you just watched Sanguine back. Maybe you didn't get the knock-up, but you have a free Fire Giant on your platter. 4 members laying in wait for Sanguine to try and come in and win this fight.
3 ultimates down now for Team Rival. It's fine. Okay, who's stunned through. Yarkor just behind the back of the pit. PBM has found the knockback, but Panatom has found the kill over onto Fino. Sam for Soccer taken low as well, and Shinto, he'll drop him down. 2 members down now for Team Rival. Sanguine, they might try to re-engage. Shinto, he'll flicker through. Captain Twig being burnt away, but stays alive, and suddenly the damage has been turned around, and it's Shinto who takes a seat.
That's the first time we've gotten to say that phrase. Shinto taking a seat in this entire set.
Yeah,
I mean, he has just been... he's 9-3-7 now. He's still doing incredibly well. And it's enough to, again, pause here for Rival. I would argue they just took their biggest threat off the board with Shinto, but still have to deal with Panatom, whose ult is coming up. Netrioid, who has the Suns. Maybe not the time to start talking about Fire Giant, because, well, Shinto's not there for another 40 seconds. You don't necessarily have that nice Merlin damage that's going to come to fruition for your team. But you still have maybe a small window of opportunity for Rival. It's a 3v4 right now. But Final K is going to spawn about 10 seconds earlier than you'll have out of Shinto. A good 4v4, maybe find another pick and keep them perpetually staggered here. Force Sanguine into a real awkward position in trying to defend their base.
Well, it's Yarkor that is just behind Shinto as far as damage goes, and Panda Cat, he'll get deleted here by Panatom. A great opening pick for Sanguine, and that might be the opening for the Fire Giant.
Yeah, and Shinto just respawns, so take the buff away. All 5 members can get it, and you've got the control lead, because that long timer that Shinto just had to sit through, well, now Panda Cat's also going to be sitting through it. You have a little under a minute before he's going to be able to make this. Rival's in the neighborhood, but I don't know, Dave. The control just doesn't feel like it exists as much for them. Unless Fino K is able to get in there and get a really big whirlwind, there's not a lot of turnaround potential.
Well, these are the last couple fights that determine if we have a standalone team in first for Rival, or if we're back to another tie, and as such, that would mean Sanguine can move themselves up to a tie for second. So the final few fights of this game may be carrying a little bit of extra weight than we might normally see between 2 different teams. Panda Cat's still down for the next 10 or so seconds. Will Sanguine elect to force the issue on the back of that knowledge? The answer is yes. PBM starts to rotate through from the back. Yarkor playing zone. Final K, he's here as well. Off the Fire Giant goes Sanguine. River's Rebuke is up. Final K, he moves himself in. He's got 3 members, but 2 beads it out. There's some good shielding there as well. Fino, he's forced out of the back of this fight. Yarkor Colossal Fury in the back line of Team Rival. Panatom's on the retreat, but look at Netrioid. He's leaped through. He's found the kill. Fine, okay. He might be able to escape, but Yarkor in a big 2v2 while Shinto will put down Panacat. Sanguine, they're looking to win the fight. Gormizer, and they may have just won the game.
All you have to do for that fight is watch those two in the back. You see Shinto and Netrioid decide that they're going to melt through the back line of Rival, and they do exactly that. Now they're aggressive with a huge amount of archers over here on the left. This Titan's gone.
Yeah, I don't see a world where Rival are able to keep this one alive, but it's Fine OK and PBM who will try to shock me. Big three-man driving strike back. Shinto will shrug it off, though. Sanguine, they're going to leap themselves forward onto the Titan. PBM doing his best, but it's not going to matter. The Titan absolutely melting, and Sanguine, they'll turn around this set and take it in 3.
You know, you look at it in the ending animation, those archers are bowing to their deities, this would make sense, but the archers are kind of the ones that help that game win. I mean, there's so many minions over there on the left-hand side that it made it so easy for Sanguine to make that rotation, such a clean fight to then be able to disengage, rotate over to that left-hand side. Phoenix is already weak, so you know you're going to be able to burn through it, and unfortunately, PBM, yeah, it doesn't matter how many three-man pushes you get, it's not enough to slow them down.
It is a long one, Gormizer, and you have to wonder if Rival are feeling. I mean, you look back, they were able to convert a 10K gold lead into a win, but only one of the two that they had here in this set. And then Sanguine, despite a back and forth in the early here in Game 3, were able to fully push that advantage into the end. And in 3, Sanguine are able to take it over Rival. We've got another tie at first. We've got a tie in second here as well. We'll go back to John Finch to break it down.
Thanks, Dolson. The SPL continues to impress, and so do the Sanguine boys. They were on a tough losing streak coming into this game. Tons of doubt swirling around this roster, but those guys never let that creep in. Instead, they find a way to extend these games out and get a big Game 3 win for the set win over Rival. Mifflin, man, how do they get this done in this game? Because really, it was back and forth. Rival had the early lead, then Sanguine had the mid-game lead, and this late-game team fight was so even. What'd they do right?
Well, they got Shinto on Merlin, first off. 3 games in a row, pops off all 3. No one's surprised about that, even a little bit. Maybe Rival is, because they let it through all 3 times, but they shouldn't have been. He just finds the most damage in the game. He gets so many kills, doesn't fall ever. But really, Yarkor impressed me this set. Early rotations out of lane, almost by pure sheer willpower, he stops that early aggression from Rival. And then an early Gold Fury steal keeps Sanguine afloat as well. Rival kind of take these fights a little bit sloppy, and you don't want to take fights sloppy against Sanguine. They're completely comfortable dragging you guys into a mud fight. It's just a perfect storm. PBM almost immediately gets removed from the game after getting a fantastic first blood set up on the second wave. Then he rotates in the jungle and sets up a kill on the jungler, and then from there, an incredibly quiet match on this Hercules.
Yeah, I don't even know if quiet's the right word, because he was making a lot of noise. It was just in the death column this game. Mike was not having his best Hercules game, and I think you were right to gas it up coming into this game. Normally, he's a force to be reckoned with on it, but I think wrong, you outclassed him on that Yamoja pick in this game, too, and that was a big part of why Sanguine had the advantage. But I think it would be hard to not, as always, make this about that 2-member core for Sanguine. Panatom and Shinto always seem to be on the same page, and we're always trying to come up with reasons. They played together forever, but they just work in tandem. Rarely do you see Panatom pulling someone in without Shinto putting out damage, or Shinto getting the kill, but that's because Panatom was there. Those two as a backline force are so hard to stop.
And we call them a backline force, but they weren't taking fights in their backline. They were diving. It's not often you see Merlin just running down enemies, but that's exactly what Shinto does. You were a little bit glib on the death segment going in. You said, well, you know, give them everything they want, Rival that is, and maybe the early game won't go nearly as bad. And you were absolutely right. Rival has some of the most early game draft I've ever seen, and Sanguine just stuff it. I don't know, you must be some sort of prophet.
Yeah, I imagine so. I'd love to take all the credit, but it just doesn't feel right to me somehow. Let's look back, though, at the schedule. Sanguine just got that win over Rival, and it caused absolute havoc in the standings. Now, the 2-way tie for first, a 2-way tie for second, technically. Obviously, it'll break down a little bit differently with those plus-minuses. That means that Pittsburgh Knights, who are in 5th, are only 2 games back from the first-place team. Renegades in 7th are only 3 back. It's so close right now. Plus, Obey are on their resurgence, looking better better than ever, not getting too owed anymore, winning one set and finding a game win in their next one. Mifflin, it's so close right now here in the SPL between all of these teams. That's what makes it such a joy to watch. But we've talked plenty. Time to get over for that post-game interview with the winners. Dolson standing by with Netroid.
All right, guys, Netroid is with me. A tough 3-game set here for you guys, Netroid. And kind of first off, your lane specific. We could see what Rival's game plan was, and that is be aggressive early, be aggressive often, PBM, not making life easy for anyone. What's communication like for you and Rongyu, and how does that game plan maybe change for you guys after what admittedly is unbridled aggression from Rival to start off?
As soon as we saw the early picks on the dual lane, we were like, okay, we'll just leave Netroid on his own island and we will just try to do other things. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try not dying. And I was like, fine, I guess. I was like 1 level behind, 500 gold down, but I think I did my job.
You did, and then when you rotate in, eventually you got some of those items online, and you certainly hit your mark there towards the end. And I think we have to mention Shinto on his Merlin here throughout this set. I mean, big turnaround plays for you guys. What did you make of your mid laner's performance here in this set?
He was insane in this set, like literally. He was hitting everything. He was positioning really good. I mean, he got solo against Poseidon, I think,
yeah, right.
Which is like unfortunate, but still, he did his job because I was getting focused on the lane, and he was like he was having free fire and stuff. So that's what we like to do, like put someone else with that lead.
Yep. And it was absolutely awesome to watch. And with this win, admittedly, a bit of a tough last few games for you guys. You come in here, though, in another tough matchup against Rival, but breaks a bit of a loss streak for you guys. How important do you think it is mentally that you guys got the win here today?
It is really good for us because we knew that Rival was the first seed. So beating Rival right now is like the best thing we could have got right now. And I think we are going to be doing greater things from now on, and just focus on the same thing as always, like just improving.
Well, Netroid, congratulations. This set was an absolute blast to watch. You guys come out with the win in 3. But that's all the SPL we've got for you here this week. We'll go back to Finch to take us home.
Thank you.
That's right, Dolson. I'm going to close this one out here for us. And I think that you also made another good point, which is that it's just fun to watch, not just Sanguine, but the SPL in general right now. We are at a point where there's the kind of parity that we have not seen in a long time, Mifflin. Legitimately, when I try and pull up the vote screen in-game or when I'm talking about the games or stuff before they come up, I really do not know where things are going to be going or who's going to be winning.
And there's really no way to know. Everyone's taking games off of literally everyone. The only consistent constant in the league was Obey's going to lose. And even now, we can't rely on that. I don't know how I'm going to get my Bridal Thor skin. I don't know how I'm going to get Dunk Father. I'm struggling just like everyone else because these votes and these games are so close.
It's good work there with those plugs, Mifflin. Let's take a look at which games you all can expect to be seeing coming up next week. We'll be starting off with a really good set because they're all going to be good sets. United up against Obey. We'll get to see how their resurgence is going. We'll have another big match a little bit later on with that Space Station Radiance one. Potential changes up near the top of the seed on that Saturday as a result. And then on Sunday, we'll get another look at Sanguine up against United, who may have been struggling a little bit, but largely, I would say, on the uptick. So still plenty of good matches coming up. Matches
what's
all
up?
Looking good, I would argue, here at this point here, Mifflin. Yeah, I'm trying to talk to you about the schedule for next week, my man, and how exciting everything's going to be looking. I know you just got lost in all those potential possibilities for next week. I can't think of any way that I could blame you here at this point. That is going to be it for this week with the SPL. But SMITE, the game that we all love, is celebrating 8 years of being awesome at this point. And I can think of no better way to celebrate that than with the way that we all started, and that is our community. Here's a love letter to SMITE across those 8 years, painstakingly brought to you by community member Whiskey One.
The God of Gods.
Shall we begin? The shroud of death shall cover this land.
Quiet! I'm on the hunt. This could be the perfect place for a trap.
Time to eat! Clear the path before me!
The light leads me to the dead.
Let's take them head on. You go first.
Drink and be merry.
Night spreads across the land.
Time to go to work.
I sense a disturbance in the weave.
Something smells fishy. Oh, I think it's me.
The world awaits my magnificence.
Clearly the people demand an encore!
Rise! It is time.
I must open my inner vision.
I'll be back. Time waits for no man.
I'm back, milady. A gift just for you. Keep saying you gotta move on, girl. That Ho-E ain't waiting around.
No. No. Death comes to all.
What's that? Did you see me, or am I just too fast?
Our journey begins.
Where I go, the sworn follows.
The warring of gods has endangered these lands. I must keep the balance. I've got you right where I want you.
Ah! In your face!
Enough of your crying, Jackal.
The scales of balance have shifted. I will tip them back.
La 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 la.
Like the winter, you cannot run from me.
Fun time!
Well, it looks like all of my best parts have been accounted for.
While there is war, my doors are always open.
This is not the time for jokes.
This is one tale you don't want to chase, darling.
They make sacrifices in my name. I am Kukur Khan. Bye.
Oops.
I suppose. You're welcome.
I am thinking twice about this human form.
Time to shine, Suku.
I will defend this land from those who intend to destroy it.
I sense a battle approaching. Let us hope our enemies have skill. I'll make everyone feel my pain.
I come from the darkness of the underworld.
If you are what you eat, then I must be nuts. Wait! Anyone ever tell you that a Wheelish thinks you smell?
Huh.
Greetings, friend.
Oh, you're not nearly as ugly as everyone said.
The name is wrong. Chiron.
We make war so that we may live in peace.
Whoa, you must have hit every branch falling off the ugly tree.
Only those with my blessing will survive the cold.
Oh, hey, fam.
A warrior is only as good as the blade he carries.
I will take everything from them.
Good will always triumph over evil.
Hello, young one.
It is a beautiful night for a hunt.
Blessings await the victors.
A weapon? Do you not see these guns?
These are savage lands. I must bring order to them.
These gods will soon feel the most excruciating pain.
Be it 5 enemies, 50 or 500, we will prevail.
I won't be raiding any picnic baskets. I'm a goddess.
If I must wage war to bring peace to this suffering populace, I will end that war.
Another day in this world of infinite war. Paradise does exist after all.
Cerberus, I think I found you a chew toy.
You think they'll put up a good fight? I hope they do.
Just as the turning of the seasons is inevitable, so was my return. There are too many sun gods for my liking.
Let's liven things up, shall we? Woo! Ha ha! Whoo! Too stiff. Live a little.
Who's ready to party?
Well, hello there.
To celebrate, let's have a bacchanalia.
Don't get too close now. You can't handle this fire. I will not hesitate to employ force.
I lead us to glory, to victory! Ready your spells. We shall take the fight to them.
Yes, my liege.
I feel younger already.
I am Jormungandr, the world serpent.
Let's see if you put up more of a fight than Osiris.
Quiet yourself.
No.
Ow! It pains me to see such strife and turmoil in this world.
I'll give you one chance to surrender. Take it or leave it.
Behold, Yemoja's fury! The fighting is endless, and I will not fail!